how many cases has that occurred?
Exactly.
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot. All the time. All the time. All the time on X accounts from political grifters.
I mean, there's Twitter accounts with millions of followers that show this stuff.
We're going to be watching trans conservatives versus trans liberals featuring Blaire White. So that is just going to be so awesome and cool. Oh my god. Everyone knows Blaire White is so based. Jubilee kills it. I have some issues with it, and I think we'll get into it in the video. Let's begin, and we're going to talk as well about how Jubilee is presenting this video.
Being a non-binary person sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this. So you can look at me looking like this.
It's just interesting that I thought this was a trans debate. That's what I thought.
Non-binary people.
Non-binary people fall under the trans umbrella. I don't know, maybe you could educate yourself a little bit on that.
I think I could educate
then you would figure out.
Damn.
It is a safety concern for trans women to share a female restroom. Can the agreeers please step forward?
Before we begin this episode,
we
know there's been a lot of anticipation.
Did Blaire White step forward? Does she? There is no fucking way in hell that she does not use the women's restroom. Oh my.
This topic.
That is why we're excited to release an extended cut.
Blah blah. Patreon. Don't care.
Oh.
How the fuck are they all gonna?
It depends. Yes. Yeah. So I think that to start it off.
It depends. That is not the question. The question is, or I guess the statement is, it is a safety concern for trans women generally to share a female restroom. It just isn't.
It's not necessarily saying that trans women. It all comes down to self-ID. When we moved into a self-ID process, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of men, just simply self-IDing into being.
Name them. There are a lot of men self-IDing as trans women to get into these bathrooms. Really? Is that the argument? Is that what we're going for? This is the most basic ass argument ever.
Women.
Or just be there. They're getting arousal from just being there.
You know, there was a photo, or it was a video that went viral, I think like just 2 weeks ago, with some like whole man with a boner in the women's restroom. And
what? Show me, please, enlighten me on this video. This stupid rumor is their whole argument. Yes, it's a rumor, it's not true. There's a billion more fucking Catholic priests that are grooming and raping children and young women than trans women that are going into female spaces such as the restroom. When a man could just walk in anyways, there's nothing, at least in the majority of America, in the majority of the United States, that is stopping a man from just walking in.
there's just some poor woman filming it. Like, am I just supposed to like accept that this is here? So I think there's levels to it. I think that trans women who are actually trans, you know, we're talking gender dysphoria, transitions, making the effort.
Okay, so Blaire White is doing the binary trans argument.
A certain point in your transition where you can actually assimilate within that space and not cause a disruptance, that would probably be the ideal time to start doing that, right? Whereas, you know, a cross-dresser who is emboldened to, in this current climate, say that they're trans because now anything is trans if you say so.
I don't think so. I actually think this current climate is one of the best and most accepting for just cross-dressing men. The amount of like femboy representation that is on the internet right now that allows so many different men and boys to cross-dress a little more openly than even just 5 years ago is insane. It's a good thing. That is actively a good thing, and you are wrong, and that is not emboldening them to be trans and use the women's restroom. There is no fake trans women who go in bathrooms and harass women. Even if a situation like that has happened, that was one sick motherfucker, not every single trans woman. Yes, the mass majority of trans women are
that person should probably stay absolutely out of women's restrooms, because you're there to get your rocks off and the women are there to take a poop and a pee. So it's not the same. And you know, I really empathize.
What is that argument? That is not an argument of proof. They're saying they are doing this and women are just trying to take a poop and pee. So that's not an argument. What?
As with women who...
This is going to be a long fucking video. Oh my God.
I probably hear some women commenting, well, how do I know the difference between a fetishist and a real trans person? It's hard. It's hard. However, that's the only nuance that I know to give to it, which is there's different reasons people are trans.
Sure.
And some people really are trans because...
That is not true. That's the AGP argument.
They really felt that way from, you know, a young age or whatever.
See, I agree to an extent. Like when you go to transition, and this is a fairly universal experience, you know, once you get to a certain point of passing, that's about the time that you would start going into the other bathroom as opposed to not make the same sex uncomfortable. Once you reach that point in your transition, a lot of things change, but you know, you start to see things from another perspective. You start to see things from the perspective of a cis person.
Yeah.
And I actually offer some
So I'll say Andrew's argument is kind of regardless of if you consider it wrong or right, transphobic or not. It is the opinion of many, many normal people that are not obsessed with social politics that is trans people should only use their chosen bathroom if they, to some extent, pass. In my opinion, I think that's wrong. However, I think it doesn't matter because I think the majority of trans people are not using their chosen bathroom unless they pass to some extent. Because I don't know if most people have ever met a fucking trans person, but trans people are terrified and anxiety ridden all the time of literally just slightly annoying a cis person over their gender. The mass majority are not using their chosen restroom until they believe that they can make it in and out completely stealth. So it doesn't matter. It's hard. It's not. A real trans person will mind their business, get in and get out. Exactly. Ghostpop, I just sent you a very important video. True, by the way. Okay. Go back a little.
Perspective of a cis person.
Yeah.
And I actually offer some solutions to this because I believe the free market can handle all of this stuff because in government-run and government-funded buildings, there should always be a third space for us to use.
I agree.
And I do. When I go to the Capitol
I
and
agree,
stuff like that,
actually.
I always use third spaces. But I think that private property owners can make the rules for their establishment and figure out how to enforce those
Sure.
rules.
I mean, I
They're
wouldn't
not-
say
they're not
third
being allowed
To an
spaces for
extent.
trans
Exactly.
people.
Like
just
we're in a state
in
right
general.
now. We're
In
a state
general,
right now
exactly.
where you
Not
have
just
to
for trans
allow
people.
anybody to use whatever restroom they want.
If you're a decent human being, you do what causes the least disturbance. So, for example, I filmed a YouTube video a few years ago where I entered a men's restroom just because I was responding to comments who were like, well, maybe you should use a men's restroom if you really feel like the way you feel. And so I said, okay, let's do it. Let's put a camera. And I was kicked out
Illegal,
within
by
seconds
the
of
way.
the entire establishment, and it was a whole ruckus. So that's what I mean by if you're a decent person, you do what causes the least amount
Blaire
of harm to the
White
people
wakes
around
up.
you. And
Jesus.
if you're, you know, a moral person, you're going to be
Personal take, the need to pass bullshit. If you want to look stereotypically like the gender you identify with, then that's fine, but I don't think we should let cis people dictate what we as trans people should look like. I agree with that as an opinion. However, what I was talking about earlier with Andrew's take is that most people, including most trans people, will not enter the restroom of their choosing unless they believe that they fit society's mold of what that looks like. I've read so many stories of cis women that are super masculine looking, you know, butch lesbians that will use a lot of third bathroom spaces when given the chance because they are embarrassed, and that is a bad thing. That is everyone should be able to use their chosen space. However, because of everyone's wanting to appeal to cis society and normativity, most people won't use their chosen bathroom unless they fit society's mold. So I think it kind of doesn't matter.
conflict avoidant in general when it's something like that, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what's the point of causing issues for anyone, especially if you're really just trying to pee?
Honestly, just put
Get
your
it
head
done.
down, go in, get out.
Like I don't think I pass. I do not. Full disclosure, I do not use the women's restroom. Like
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
I want to comment on Blaire's point. The one thing I kept hearing through all of the nuance is passability.
I never
Because
said that.
ultimately, when we talk about passability, it determines how you get harassed in the bathroom. Because honestly, if you don't look so passable or whatnot, people are going to say, "Oh, that's a man with a dress on," and then there's going to be discourse. But the reality of it is, honestly, who cares who's trans and who's cis going in the bathroom?
Exactly,
You should
yep.
be minding your own business, being able to pee and do your business
Yep.
in peace, for the most part.
Yep.
That conversation around this man with a boner on or whatever like that, I saw that picture and I thought to myself, that's really a right-wing talking point and conservative propaganda because
Yes.
that's their ideology.
How is it
when
It was a
comes
thing
to
that
trans.
happened.
I'm speaking. That's their ideology.
got your ass, Blaire White. Oh my god, you got shut the fuck up. Jesus, public bathrooms just suck, to be honest. Why can't we just have more private stalls and public wash spaces with no gender markers at all? Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. Like, the third gender spaces are good. Like, not for specifically trans people, but just in general, they're good. Jesus, I'm watching that again, though. Holy.
That's really
Holy
a right-wing
base.
talking point and conservative
Yes,
propaganda.
it is propaganda,
because
obviously.
that's their ideology.
How is it
when
It
it
was a
comes
thing
to
that
trans?
happened.
I'm speaking. That's their ideology when it comes to trans. It's because
Oh
conservatives
my
have a
god,
basic
girl. That's crazy.
level understanding of what transness is in the first
Sure.
place.
They do not.
And with all due respect, I do not think any of you are basic, but they use you as the baseline to
Yes, they're the good ones to amplify the propaganda. They use people like Blaire White as a tool.
amplifying this propaganda.
How is it
ask you a question?
propaganda if it's a thing that really happened? It was caught on video. Like it was an actual occurrence. It wasn't
Okay.
staged. It happened, and that's not the only. It's not an isolated
But
incident.
that's not
No,
enough
isn't
for
it?
me to say because actors can do that.
That
Who
too.
knows? They could have been an actor trying to.
Hold on. I need to see what the fuck they're talking about. How old is this video? A month ago? Let's see this. So this is what they're referring to, chat. I have actually seen this. I forgot about this. This is what they're referring to, chat. Viral tweet, Ollie fucking London, of course, who, by the way, if for those who don't know, Ollie London is the dude that tried to transition to being Korean. So let's keep that in mind when we are thinking about his opinions. Transgender man, idiot, with an erect penis, waits in line to use a cubicle in the women's restroom. Glances at the women who are hurt in the bathroom, turns his camera. I didn't see the camera turning, but whatever, sure. The thing that never happens, happening all the time. Literally, we see this happen every single day. Do we? Do we see this happen every single day? Because this is the first video I've seen at all of this. Just saying. So upsetting and harmful to women. Yeah. Clearly, unless there's actually something physiologically wrong. Unless there's something physiologically wrong. Yeah. That's a little creepy, and she should probably be talking. However, that's assuming that this is a trans woman in the first place. It would be so easy for this to be a cross-dresser or a fake video or anything. This is a single isolated incident that is probably propaganda, to be honest. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's totally just meant to make trans women look bad. You know what I mean?
Make a point against trans
Anyways.
people. But this has always been our battle. It's just from what I just heard you were saying with your talking points, because I did understand what you were saying. I just got the word passability out of there, and
Which I didn't say that word.
Also, I want to say, what's to say there's not creepy women in the women's restroom? If they're accusing that man of taking pictures of them or whatever, what's to say there's not creepy women taking
So I'm
No,
saying
he
that
said
word.
passability.
I'm saying-
she didn't say it. He
I'm-
did. And the
I'll say
problem,
it.
the left.
Okay, I can't.
The
I
problem
couldn't
with
hear.
the-
I just couldn't hear back there.
the
You know what?
liberal-
sorry, there's ads, chat.
And the
I'll say
problem,
it.
the left.
Okay, I can't.
The
I
problem
couldn't hear.
with
I just couldn't hear back there.
The
You know what I was
liberals,
saying
the
was.
liberals always use the.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you said that word. What I was getting out of what you were saying, the one word that was coming to me was passability. This is Blossom saying it. And so passability politics is really a thing in our trans community, especially
Yeah,
when it comes to
absolutely.
the debate of restrooms.
Well, you can say it's politics, but actually it's just real life, right? It's just about
Correct.
where
I
you're
agree.
able
Yes.
to assimilate to and where you're not. And I
Yes,
think one of the
that
biggest
is what
problems
it's
in the trans
about.
community is the community by and large has seemed to reject assimilation and seems hell-bent on...
That's not true.
I think it's
That's not true at
absolutely
all.
true.
That's not
which
true.
is-
Because half of the trans community, hold on. Can we talk about this? Everyone expects and treats the trans community like it is super far left. Do you know how many straight, binary, stealth, trans men and women, such as Blaire White, although I guess she's not really stealth, but Blaire White without the fucking content grifting, are out there? How many 4chaners that hate themselves and are Nazis and shit are out there? It's insane. And I Yeah, it's
You see
insane,
people talk
but it
about how
doesn't
you
really
don't need
matter
to work on your
anyways.
transition at all to
Everyone
enter
knows
women's
passing
restrooms,
is
and I think
important.
that is so selfish.
That drives me
So it's
crazy.
so disregarding of women who may or may not feel
But the
uncomfortable.
trans woman experience is not monolithic. So
Okay, Blaire White, though, there are going to be bigoted cis women that are uncomfortable with you. Although I will say the most arguments I've seen about this whole bathroom situation is from cis Republican men that have a following, can I just say, but whatever.
who are we
I
to
never said it
police
was.
transness? Why are we
I agree.
policing other people's transness
I'm
and
just
how they
listening to
show
women.
up?
We have to
But
protect
why are we-
women.
Why are
Protect
y'all policing,
women.
though? That's what I don't understand.
But you're using
I-
words
it's
that we're not
policing.
using. It's not policing. We're listening
is
to
policing.
women, and if you have 50%, we won't say 50%, but if you have a large chunk
Okay, then Blaire White, go back to the men's bathroom that you got kicked out of, girl.
of the population of women saying that
Do you think this argument's insane? Because do you think that if you're trying to be like realistic with it, and we're gonna stick with trans women as the example, do you think a non-passing trans woman still wearing a dress, still like wearing makeup and a wig or whatever in this scenario you've built up, walking into the men's room wouldn't be just as weird and put that trans woman, 99% of whom who are not being creepy, who are not being weird, that would put her in danger, correct?
they are uncomfortable with a certain thing, a good person leans in and listens.
So
They
why are
don't
you
just
not listening
reject
to
it.
other trans women, Blaire?
I
think
do
that's-
all day. I am right now.
But you didn't, and I'm not.
And you
I'm not
reject
trying
all
to
of
be
them.
combative or whatever like that. I'm just trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, what the middle ground would be between you and I, because you said one side and that's great, but what about the side of trans women? If we're not bringing both sides into this conversation,
Here's what I would say
then it
then.
is unbalanced.
Here's what I would say then, because I do understand both sides. I didn't, I'm almost a decade into my transition, which means I was one time a year in, 6 months in, 2 months in. So I understand that. But I also knew at the very beginning of my transition that if I'm not at a place physically where I'm not making people feel uncomfortable, or I'm making people uncomfortable, then
Right.
that's on me. That's my
Correct.
responsibility to make sure that I'm going places a certain way.
Yes, and
to make sure
most
that they're
trans
comfortable.
people do
Because
feel
for
that
your
way.
safety also too, right?
Well,
What you
It is
always
also
say
for
is
your safety, yes.
Your
I know
safety
that-
plays a part.
It is both safety and I think, and I'll agree with this though, to an extent, I am worried about how cis people perceive me, which is again why I do not use female restrooms, because I don't pass, so that is for my comfort and my safety. But yeah, there is a little bit of social aspect of other people's comfort too, as well, sure. However, that shouldn't be forced upon everyone, and that's not something that I should have to feel in the first place.
You seem to be looking at through the lens of always trans being the priority, and I'm looking at it through the lens.
When she says protecting women, she's talking about cis women only. Yes. Yeah, she is, which is also equally fucked. But she said many times that she doesn't see herself as a woman anyway, so
of
whatever.
women being the priority
That's a whole other topic.
here. There's
But
plenty of situations
Why? I just want to know
because
why
it's them who
around
would
that.
fall victim to not actual trans women, as I said, but people posing as trans women, people who are
But trans
actually
women are also victims of that.
The captions are so funny, by the way,
Actual trans-
because when Blaire White says the words trans women, the captions correctly do a trans space women, indicating linguistically, right, that trans is describing a woman still. But what Blaire White means when she says trans women is one word, trans women, as if it is a whole separate identity from women. That is what she believes, if not just straight up men. Study in 2017 and 2018 found transgender people were 4 times more likely to be victims of violent crimes. Yes, 1,000 billion%.
women, as I said,
Especially
but
black
people
trans women.
posing as trans women,
have
people
an
who
answer.
are
But trans
actually
women are
trans.
also victims of that as well.
Are more often than not victims.
The two of you have said your piece, and I would love to hear.
Yeah, everybody.
I was gonna say, hold on, announce it kind of based, because as much as I love her, Blossom, girl, I want to hear from others as well. And Blaire White, please shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I
Since
just
it's
want to
hot,
make this
nobody
point.
else is
I just
talking.
want to make this point as well. But trans women also experience violence and also need that
doubt.
protection. And so that's the
Yes. No
thing.
doubt.
Like, it should be an even playing field. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is I would like to challenge you to expand to make sure you're being inclusive of both sides or whatever, because we
am.
have to have these important conversations between cis women and trans women.
I
And-
mean, I
and I'm
think-
just gonna say, and I'm not gonna just say cis women. I'm gonna say women, biological women. I want to make it inclusive of everyone.
I think the middle ground, though, is, and I feel like I'm not coming at this from an extreme place.
I
feel
love
like
that they
an
got
extreme
told to
place
shut
be
up and then
no
just
trans
went,
women in the
well,
bathroom
and then kept
ever.
talking.
That's the extreme position. I'm saying work on your transition, take it as your responsibility and be respectful.
Blaire, that is assuming that everyone is eventually going to pass. And dark reality, that is not always true. Not that everyone doesn't have the, or 99.999% of people do not have the potential to pass, but not everyone has the money or the time or the mental health to pass anytime soon. So that's incredibly a visual of how just privileged you are.
And that's the middle ground, right?
This is a self-preservation issue, right? So if somebody's in the bathroom and they have a boner, that looks bad on all of us. And when people and when our community is not calling that out and not saying that this is,
they should. The trans community, if things like that are happening, assuming it's not a right-wing grift or whatever, the trans community should be calling that out and saying that stuff is bad. That's a good thing. I don't think anybody's defending that.
But how many? I'm just
Inherently.
how many cases has that occurred?
Exactly.
It happens a lot. We
It
see
happens a
it's
lot.
happening all the
All the
time.
time.
There
All
are
the time.
Twitter accounts.
All the time on X accounts from political grifters.
I mean, there's Twitter accounts with millions of followers that show this stuff.
All the time, I see it. Oddly enough, only from Twitter accounts with millions of followers. That is so not suspicious.
Stuff multiple
Shut the
times a day.
fuck up.
And so we're showing that
Imagine getting people into a room to talk and then trying to stop two people from talking in the middle of a conversation.
these types of things do actually cause harm to trans people. So if
Kinda
you're looking
real,
at a
actually,
trans
but,
lens and to say what
They
what
wanna
are
get
we
everybody's
doing? We need to
opinion.
combat that stuff and come together to combat
It
that
does
stuff.
not encompass the entire trans
Yes.
experience.
No,
and
you're
that's all
right.
I just want to say.
Yeah,
I
they
think there's a lot of
agree.
different
They
points
agree.
from everybody here. Honestly, like I can understand like how some women may feel
God, their
unsafe
makeup's
with men
so
in
good.
there in the restroom. Men, when I say men, I mean men. I'm not talking about trans women. So being a non-binary person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this,
Fucking face, and then Kevin's fucking or what is his name? Oh yeah, Sam Collins. Sam. I don't know why I keep fucking Blaire White's goofy ass face compared to Sam's. Like, oh god, like I know Blaire White's about to say some shit. That's
Looking
so
like
funny.
this.
A follower count correlates to frequency of events. Yeah, exactly. So fucking knock knock. Anybody there? Nope.
this, you can
Nobody's
look at
there.
me
No,
looking like this.
it's just interesting. I thought this was a trans debate. That's
Oh,
what I
don't
thought.
even.
Non-binary.
I know.
Thought
Why
non-binary
are
people
I love
are
Sam
trans.
so much.
I would say
Umbrella?
that.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe you could educate yourself a little bit
I
on
think-
that.
Oh,
I think I
base.
could
Maybe then you would
educate
figure
I think I
out.
could
Arm ass face. That's what I'm saying. Oh my god. Actually?
educate
You know what
right?
the reality is
I'm
and what
sure there's
trans
a
actually means.
non-binary Jubilee episode.
Wow, it's
Well, because it's not a debate about who is really trans and who is not.
I agree, that's not
We're
the debate.
talking about restrooms.
Yeah,
As
they're
a
getting too
trans,
far from it. A
non-binary
little bit of a
person.
tangent. Who's wearing the yellow hat? That is
When I go
Alexander.
into a place that only
the
has
non-binary
men's and
representation in
women's
this episode, I
restrooms,
guess.
And I'm dressed like this. My choice to go into the men's restroom at that point puts me in danger.
6
True.
years ago.
I'll say it depends for a lot of non-binary people, their presentation and a billion other different things. In Alexander's specific case, it would be dangerous for them to go into either bathroom. Putting it out there.
When I've transitioned almost 8 years ago, but 6 years ago, it was never an issue for me to use the women's room. Girls would literally drag me in there with them and say, "Girl, you need to be in our
Yep.
bathroom." And I was like,
Yep.
I felt uncomfortable back then.
I will say, I have literally been there where I have a bunch of girls like, oh, just like go to the bathroom with us. I'm like, okay. And I go in, just like it's with my friends, there's nobody else there or whatever. And I feel uncomfortable, not like, oh, I don't belong here kind of uncomfortable, like I think she is probably about to describe, but in a kind of, I am so worried that someone's going to come up to me and be like, you don't belong here. And I am currently at a position in my transition where I like don't really pass, but I definitely clearly look feminine, like something's up. I have been in the men's bathroom before and had old ass men come up to me like, hey, the women's bathroom is over there. And then I turn around and go, oh, sorry. And then they're like, oh, and then I am about to get shot and I leave. I don't know.
I don't pass. I know I don't pass, so that's a me problem. And I'm not going to turn my fear of being attacked in
What do you mean fear? That's a legitimate fear, girl.
the men's room into a woman's problem. It's still a me problem, so I need to work on myself. And it sucks. Does it suck? Yes, it sucks. I don't pass. I know I don't pass.
Ghost, you look amazing. I've seen you in cosplay. I think you pass. Well, thank you so much. I can... The thing about cosplay and like videos and stuff is I can pass if I have the right angles and lighting and fucking fake tits, but it's... I don't want to talk about it right now. Let's get back to the video. I apologize for the tangent.
Respect women enough, and I'm...
Respect women. See, girl, you're self-hating. I respect women. You are a woman too. It's so unfortunate. So many of these conservative trans women, or just conservative trans people in general, hate themselves. Like, actively are incredibly self-hating, and it's so sad to see.
Trans people aren't capable of handling themselves against a man, but I am confident in my ability to do that. And not everybody...
Girl, you would get fucking rocked by 50% of men in a bathroom. Just saying.
can. I get that, but it's just now, 6 years ago, I used to use women's room.
Also, not to be
Now
a
I
dick,
don't,
but you're old,
because
so...
Women have spoke out. They've come out and said, we're not comfortable. There's
Am I a bad person?
too many
Sorry.
self-ID people out there just taking advantage, and I choose to use the men's room to protect
But
them.
you are not
I can
going to do
definitely
anything, so
actually,
you're not protecting them
almost
from
empathize with a lot
shit,
of
girl.
trans women.
All you would be doing is normalizing the fact that a trans woman goes in the bathroom and doesn't do anything wrong, which is actively a good thing.
That bathroom and a lot of the turmoil with going in and you know, especially with passability, but the layer that I feel like in the conversation that's missing here is actually trans
I
men.
agree.
And
Too much
also
trans
the
women.
fact that
But trans women are overrepresented in the media, and trans men are underrepresented for... I could talk about this for an hour as to why, but I'm not going to right now.
I was born biologically female, and a lot of the things that trans women experience of violence in the bathroom is what I experienced as a child. So the reason why my education here is not necessarily to create an idea that I need to conform to Eurocentric standards. Myself, I'm a 6 foot tall trans man, size 13 shoe, so I don't fit into the Eurocentric standards of
Sam's like fucking based. I love the little nod.
what a woman is, and I never did as a child. I was, you know, bullied
problem,
relentlessly
bro.
for
Thank you.
this and isolated from many spaces. So this discussion about trans women being in the restroom also affects biological women because guess what? You know, biological women come in
Yep.
all shapes and sizes. There are, you know, a lot of lesbian women.
I agree.
that
That's what
deal
I
with
was just
this
saying
issue
earlier,
that I
chat.
related with and empathize because we both get pulled out of the restroom and thrown and guys try to
Yep.
beat us up because we're in a restroom with women. And then on top of it, to add that layer that it's not even being discussed.
Why
and
are you in a
mainstream,
women's
it's just
bathroom?
completely wiped out, and that you're standing up for women, but you're not standing up for women children. You're not standing up for biological females that are children. You're only standing up for what really affects you. And it's kind of sad that the idea that passability is you need to work on your transition. A lot of folks, especially in our community, have no access to finances, resources, jobs to even
Yep.
get their foot in the door to get access to hormones. So you're putting
I
all
lost
these
you for a little bit
barriers
there,
just for them
but
to be
we're
able to
back
go
on
to the
track.
restroom, which is a natural thing that we all have
Yes.
to do. So what do I need to do? Piss outside? Because that's how I was treated my
Yep.
entire childhood.
Absolutely.
I would. I just feel like when this whole topic
Yeah. You cannot make this shit up. What, girl? Oh my god. Wait, did I hear that right? Holy shit. Wait. He goes on this long fucking rant about like, what am I supposed to do? Pee outside as like a joke and fucking...
That's how I was treated my entire childhood.
I would. I just feel like
I would. He goes on that long rant about how he was mistreated. No one supports him, and one fucking bitch goes,
when this
I
whole
would.
topic comes up, like it obviously
I would
goes
pee
back to,
outside.
like, there's
Fuck
dudes like
you.
jerking
Holy
off in
shit.
the bathroom, and like to me, like when I hear that, I'm like, okay, like, but
Is his name Sasha? And do I have the wrong person? I probably do. My bad. I swear.
Hey everybody, what's up?
Yeah. I am gonna... I guess call him Sasha from now on. Maybe that's like his first full name or something, because that's what it is in the video.
That's
I
not
want to respect
trans
that.
women.
But
So when we talk about this conversation, and it seems like the fear is like literally cisgender straight
everyone, hey,
men who are
Blueberry.
being creeps. And what
Yes.
sucks is cis straight men can be like creepy, and then it's like trans women and trans men are like paying the price for that.
Yes.
And I feel
I
like
agree.
You know what? That's what's really hard about it, is because then I think people get the idea, or some people have the belief trans women are just like, they're just men in dresses, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, for so many trans women and so many trans men, the safest place for them is the bathroom that aligns with their gender. And if you go to a place where it's illegal to do that, or you have to go
I
and, like,
disagree
what's
with
your
that.
ID, or, like,
However,
birth
it is
certificate,
affirming.
It puts you in an objectively
I think
unsafe
both of them are
situation. And for me,
objectively
like, I'm like, if I
unsafe.
walk in the women's room, I mean, I know I like look like I look 12, but like I feel like someone would be like, get out of here, you know what I mean? But like, that's the vibe. Like, I think you got to remember, like, when we're talking about it, and we're talking about like these creepy dudes like in the bathroom.
Sorry about ads chat.
Here's
They're
the
not
middle
trans
ground.
women.
Here's the middle ground. Y'all ready?
You're
We're
gonna
so
put out
happy
the
with
middle
this.
ground?
Middle ground.
Sure,
We all
bitch.
actually agree. It's men that are the problem.
Yep.
It's not trans women, real trans women. However, the problem is our community has really eroded any barriers
your
to
community,
actually
our
being trans
community.
in the sense of your average cross-dresser can identify as a trans woman.
But then it's not a trans woman.
Well,
Exactly, then it's not a trans
I feel that
woman.
way as well. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, with the state of the political correctness within
Oh,
the trans community,
the woke
you can't
people.
really say that. Like that
Wait, I
person.
think
You
I-
can't
is
say
that person
that
saying
the
they're
cross-dressers
trans?
are trans
No,
if
I
they're
know,
not
they say
trans.
that they're
What the
trans, but
fuck?
they're
I've gotten the same smart Ray-Bans ads. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I do agree with you, Blaire, 100%.
take mine back.
Because
Wow.
that's one of those things. Yeah, I told you. I
Let's
really,
go.
like,
Wait,
agree
hold
with
on.
you, Blaire.
And
Saying
their
they're
self-ID.
they're being
No, I
protected.
No,
actually
they
agree.
say that they're trans, but
I
they're
actually do.
cross-dresser.
I actually do agree with you, Blaire.
They say that they're
100%
trans, but they're
because
Wow.
that's one of
cross-dresser?
those things. Yeah,
I
told you.
disagree.
Let's go.
What?
That. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when
What the fuck?
we self-identify,
But Finnster is not up in this bitch being like, I'm a trans woman.
some people can take advantage of that. And that is something, unfortunately, that we cannot control. But we have to combat it with facts, with research, and with the information that is presented in front of us. It seems like we're the ones that's teaching everybody else because we live in a predominant cis world.
Yeah, of
We're
course.
teaching them about us. And I
Yes.
just really think we cannot afford to be intellectually dishonest about our experiences as trans
Yeah.
people.
There is something that I think we can do. There's solutions to this. Like I do think that something like you have to be on hormones or something like that for 2 years or something before you can
Oh
change
my
your
God,
ID, like
girl.
across the board. That would eliminate the cross-dressers from being able to go there, because then you can say, hey, my ID says
Actual fascist belief, by the way. Like, I'm not using that in a, oh, whoever disagrees with me is a Nazi. But that is like an honest to God. Let's make sure these trans women get their, or these trans people get their identifications, and we make sure that they're on hormones, even though not all trans people want hormones, not all non-binary people want hormones, especially. Gatekeeping hours, who's up? Exactly! Oh my god, exactly. Like, that is not the definitive you are trans. What happens in the future when there's new medications, when there's new alternatives? It's just so insane. Before you can change your ID is so stupid. And then, are you suggesting that we have every single person scan their fucking ID to go to the bathroom? What if I leave my ID at home? Are you like, piss outside? Yes. Fuck you!
says this, and you can, and so
I'm over it.
It shows that you've actually taken steps. It doesn't. It's not about passability. It's about how long you've actually been taking the steps to transition.
I have a partial agree on the last sentence. We'll get into it later.
I support.
Because officially getting hormones is the easiest thing to do. Oh yeah, yeah. Let's talk to the fucking British bitches in chat. Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't even think of that aspect of it too. And do they not realize that cross-dressing can be people's first realization? Oh, I might be trans. Like, God, I know. Like, for me, I mean, obviously, my whole channel for the past 2 fucking years, almost 3, has been me cross-dressing. Like, get real. We're gonna swipe our IDs at the bathroom entrance like a fucking security door? That's what I'm saying, girl. Oh my god. It's just... Oh. I support the transgender military ban. Oh, I have a lot of opinions about this, chat. This is how it's gonna be every single time, by the way.
I think that
Except maybe
oftentimes when you talk about
Except
trans
maybe
people, oftentimes when you talk about
that
trans
guy.
people in the military, people forget that most places, if we're talking about feet on the ground and really going into war zones, are really dangerous for trans people. And so it's really an extra risk.
You're talking about the culture that exists over
Yeah,
there.
the Middle
Yeah,
East, you
yeah.
know, it's like
So-
that's not exactly.
Oh my fucking god. These people have no idea what they're talking about. The statement is, I support the transgender military ban. The military. That's it. Super general. Second sentence in, yeah, I don't think, these mentally ill trans people could survive the Middle East. Oh, why is it that every conservative's concept of the military is bomb Iran? Like, what? What? That is like there's so much else in the military. They just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Holy shit.
The
Trans
friendliest
friendly,
place
it's
for
actually
us,
the
yes.
opposite. The medications that we take sometimes put us in conflict with being able to actually be combat ready. But there is some nuance here, obviously. Like if there was
Obviously.
a trans cook or a trans medic, I'm not exactly going to be upset. But
Why
for
would
the
you
most
be
part,
upset?
when it comes to
Are you
combat.
that much of a fucking
supporting,
snowflake,
like what
Blaire
you just
White?
said, I hate supporting it because it goes to the narrative of the should athletes compete?
Oh,
in
I don't want to
sports,
talk about
you
this
know,
right now.
but-
The totally different.
Yeah,
They
the
shouldn't.
drugs we take
Obviously, they're all gonna be.
do weaken us, so we're not, like you just said, combat ready, but we're also not as
Okay, so they weaken you, but they don't. They make you stronger when it comes to sports.
physically strong
Sure.
as the guy counterparts standing right next to us.
And I
so.
will say, like, as a person with HIV, I was diagnosed at 18. I couldn't go into the military, because I couldn't get Biktarvy overseas.
Yeah, so I will
That is
say,
such a
as
specific
probably
case and
the
does not
only
affect
person
every
that
single
served
trans
in the
person ever.
military on this entire panel.
Oh, good. I'd like to hear more.
It's okay. The thing about it is, I think that there is a lot of nuance in this. I actually have friends that are currently serving in the military.
Absolutely.
I think there was a lot of misrepresentation of what the trans ban actually did. You have soldiers, if you have surgeries, they go on profile, which means they can't actually do their job. They can't do PT.
Yep.
If you have bottom surgery, it takes a year. And so as a leader, that person's filling
It's
a
true.
position of a job of somebody that should be doing it.
This is the same argument as women shouldn't be in the military because, oh no, what if they get pregnant? Bitch, please. So basically, women shouldn't serve in general because war zones and physical disadvantages, they might as well just say that. Exactly! That is exactly what I'm saying. Any of these arguments can be applied to women should not apply, or women should not be in the military.
I don't mind somebody who is actually on
It's nuanced. You should not
hormones
generally
going there because
ban
there's a
all
lot of
fucking...
people. I mean, people take PTSD medications overseas. They actually take 6 months of medication with them. So a full-out ban, I don't necessarily support.
Then you're there.
because I think
What?
that
Why are you there?
Everybody in the military, as long as you can do your job, you can go in there and nobody really
I agree. I like
cares.
this nuance.
But it is those times when if you can't.
She's right. If you're planning on getting bottom surgery, do not join the military. But it's the same. If you're a cis woman or just generally anyone that's planning on getting pregnant, don't go to the military either anytime soon, at least, because you're gonna have to dip out.
Perform your job.
Can we all agree that the idea that if you get a trans person's pronouns wrong, they'll scream at you or something? My stupid family believes that it's wrong. Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, it goes back to 99% of trans people shut the fuck up because they're anxious and nervous about how cis people are gonna treat them. The way they say that about the Middle East, not considering the trans people that exist there, it's so self-serving and privileged. I know. I don't think there's a trans special forces branch. Just take it case by case. I agree. It's a case by case. It is. And not even, actually, I wouldn't even say case by case. I'd say let them in unless there are exceptions. But
you talk about with HIV, actually, most people don't even realize this. If you contract HIV,
none of this matters because there's 5 trans people in the military ever, to be honest.
while you're in,
it's already 2% of the
stay
population.
Non-deployable job.
Right. And then also, if we want to just get super real, you have the trans suicide rate. And if you really want to compound that by the veteran suicide rate, that's not exactly a concoction for very positive results. So I see
biggest eye roll
how
I've ever
trans
had.
women
I'm not
actually
even replying to
benefit us,
that.
And Lord knows I'm not trying to get drafted. So yeah, I'm all good with that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I'm fine. Yeah, keep us banned. Is it still banned? I don't remember.
I think it's very discriminatory to keep trans
Yes,
people out of the
it is.
military. We pay our bills here. We pay our taxes here. We are Americans. We deserve to serve this.
Yeah, okay, but that argument, as much as I love her, that argument is wrong because many people can't serve in the military for a variety of reasons. My older brother, Chat, actually wanted to serve in the military and could not because he had the slightest of heart conditions. Like, there's very many reasons in which you should not only cannot but should not serve in the military. And I agree that there is a lot that has to do, and this is my unpopular opinion, there is a lot that has to do generally with being trans. For example, if your gender dysphoria is particularly bad and you are depressed, you should not join the military. Like, you shouldn't. But I would say the exact same thing to any cis person that's struggling with body dysmorphia or even just reoccurring depression in general, that you shouldn't join the military. In fact, I think the military is a pretty horrible thing in a lot of ways, but whatever. That certainly has statistics for True. But it's just, I don't know.
This country as well.
It's a stupid argument because
you
who
all did
cares,
raise
honestly?
some great points about the concern and safety of trans people. And I do agree that something does need to be done about that to protect us. Who's protecting us in the military? Who is?
I mean, if you're even
I don't
diagnosed
understand
with,
that
like,
argument.
mild social anxiety, you're not eligible to enter the military. If you have like a crooked
Yes.
left, pinky toe, you're not eligible. So
That's obviously not true,
discriminatory,
but
I mean,
Blaire White's
that
making a
word
good
sounds
point.
pretty in today's climate very much
I
like,
agree
oh,
with
no,
her on this
discrimination, but
specific bit.
it's not always bad. Sometimes it's for the safety, and it's like, when it comes to the military.
What the fuck is going on here? We're arguing, Koi. Come argue with us.
Keeping America safe, that has priority over anyone's feelings.
We're feeling. Shut up, Blaire
It's not always
White,
a negative way around
please.
it.
It's still
When you say
discrimination.
protect,
That doesn't mean it's
protect
negative, though.
Our troops over there, while they're over there, you're talking about, or protect them before so they can get in.
Both. It is important to protect all trans people in the military.
Well, we can't waste
And so what if the
resources
best way to protect
protecting
them is not putting them in a
Waste
Muslim
resources on the
I
5
just want to
total
interject
trans
your point
people in the
about
military.
suicide. So as somebody who has worked in community service with community members directly, a lot of their suicide issues actually revolve around access to finances. And the military is one of the highest employers of transgender people. So we actually see the suicide rate drop.
Oh,
And
that's
me
true. I
personally-
forgot
One of
about
the
that.
highest employers of anybody.
But if you're suicidal,
But that doesn't matter because they're still one of the highest employers of trans people, period. It doesn't matter.
and you go
Oh
into
my
a job
God.
that has a high likelihood of PTSD, causing PTSD and all these other issues, then it becomes a big issue because then you already have one mental illness, and then you're compounding it with more.
That's their
And when
choice
you're
to make,
on,
by the
you know,
way.
a very strict regimen of, if you're trans and if you're really trans, and we
Really
can get into who's
trans.
really trans later because I'm gonna have a
I
lot to say
want to know
about
what
that.
you're
But
talking about.
I'm sure you fucking will, Blaire White. You're gonna alienate your own
if
conservative
you're gonna be on
group,
hormones,
probably.
right? You're not always gonna have
What the fuck's
access
going on
to
here?
those
Fuck the
drugs
troops?
when you're
Kind of
deployed and you're
agree.
in those situations. That's why I say, if
Well,
you're
I'll say fuck this system. I think most people that end up in the military are people that don't want to be in the military, but they're forced there because of economic conditions. I think it's incredibly important to keep in mind that most people in the military, especially younger troops, regret it entirely. There's so much propaganda around getting children, literal children. I had fucking... When my older brother, was looking at going to the military, he was 16, and we had fucking military recruiters eating dinner at our house. That is so predatory. That is so fucked up. But anyways, God, not the Islamophobia. I must have missed that. I think you missed what she said there. That was horrible. Oh God, did I? I had no idea there's this much infighting when it comes to trans people. Oh, there's so much. But it's so fun to argue about because I love shitting on Blaire White. She's such a fucking idiot. What if we just had everyone together regardless of gender? Agree. Yeah, we had the Army and Marines at our high school. Yeah, that's cringe. Don't go into the military if you don't want everything about you changed. Yeah. What did she say about
And then you're go into a
Islamophobia?
job that has a high likelihood of PTSD, causing PTSD and all these other issues.
I probably missed it.
Then it becomes a big issue because then you already have one mental illness, and then you're compounding it with more.
And when you're on, a very strict regimen,
I heard
of,
flipping off the
if you're
military. You're gonna
trans and
see
if you're
that's
really
based,
trans,
Koi.
and we can get into who's really trans later.
Really
because I
trans.
have a
Yeah,
lot
I
to say
wanna know
about
what
that.
you're
But
talking about
if you're going to
that.
be on hormones, right? You're not always going to have access to those drugs when you're deployed and when you're in those situations. That's why I say if you're, a line cook or something, if you're whatever, that's one thing. But if we're talking about combat,
It's all
you're
the
not
military
gonna have
equally.
access to
It
your
affects all of
testosterone
them.
blockers and your
How
estrogen.
do you know that? Because medical
Because they
care
don't have
is
those kind of
covered in the
pharmacies in the Middle
medical
East.
care is covered in the
Why are we
military, so
talking
they
about
should
the
have
Middle East? Carl, oh my god. They don't have those pharmacies in the Middle East. First of all, chat, I was in fucking Dubai like 6 months ago. I just... It's so... Yes, obviously you're not allowed to transition. But the casual Islamophobia is just insane. And also, why are we just assuming every military person... Like, if you're working in the fucking Navy at IT all day in the military, why is the Middle East even in the conversations? She said things about the Middle East again out of nowhere. I'm not gonna say them. Yeah, I know.
access to that. So that is
Yeah,
also
thank you.
information
Sorry, I just
that
got
also
it.
Also, you guys are forgetting the fact. Well,
but-
hold
What,
on.
what?
You guys have all forgotten the fact of what is the flip side for these transgender individuals that are signing up for the military and they're
Yeah.
taken out, and that was their life plan. Where are they supposed to work, and where is their employment supposed to be?
No,
Because the
agree.
mental
I agree
illness
because
that
the
happens
military is
with
the last.
homelessness
The military is the last ditch effort for so many people economically. That's what I was just saying earlier.
and the lack of resources
agree,
that
it's
come.
horrible.
So that is also
They
the flip
actually-
side of that. So if folks
but they
don't
didn't
have,
kick
hold
anybody
on
out.
1 second, but if they don't have access to a job that could offer them
Take your
support and research, and
Blaire
access
White, you fucking bitch. This is why they moved away the other guy from you, because nobody wants to sit next to your stinky ass. Holy shit. They act like HRT is this impossibly expensive and elusive drug to give out. It isn't. Yeah, I know. It's so... Ugh. With that said, I just dropped like $260 yesterday on it, so...
the medication, access to benefits, lifetime benefits. That's something that most transgender people in any sector of any
So
job.
do you want an answer to your question, or are you just going to rant? Because I can answer. You said, what about those people that were kicked out? I actually think it's bad if you are someone who was in it and you really are, because just like, Sarah, and I've met many trans veterans that I've paid respect to publicly on social media, and I think that's amazing, actually.
bet you
So
have.
if you're kicked out and it was once, the norm
But
that
what's
you
the
could.
resources you're
I'm
offering them,
speaking,
though?
though. If you're kicked out and it once was the
Wow,
norm for
what a
you to participate in
bitch.
the military, that's sad. But at the same time, if that is what is determined for the ultimate safety and effectiveness of the military, nothing should come before that.
Blaire, have you ever
Because the
worked
second
directly
bomb,
with
because the
trans
second
people?
bomb,
Have you ever worked
I
directly
am right
with
now. I am right now.
No,
We're
directly
surrounded
No,
by
working with them. Are you fucking stupid?
services in terms of nonprofits? and
No,
actually-
Blaire White has not worked a day in her life. Do not, like... Insane. 260 is wild for how long? So that was actually just the appointment to get HRT. The actual medication itself is, I think, last time $50 or something. I'm not on insurance, though, so... The way she interrupted him first when he wasn't finished and then said that, yeah, he wasn't even talking that long. I'm going to say a slur.
He's a
getting
trans
clientele.
She's not
That's my
grassroots.
entire
She is
career.
not a grassroots
Not
person
grassroots.
because truth be told, a lot of our
What does that
community
even mean?
is in grassroots.
Have you ever had a
Nonprofit
client-
She
organizations-
doesn't know what grassroots
Trans
means.
led.
It's
Hold
so
on just a
over.
second, Hold on just a second.
Took care of them, like what, like paid
Trans-led
their
org-
bills? No,
I'm
I don't
sorry,
Offering them
excuse me,
services, getting them through
excuse
I've helped
me.
a lot of trans people in my life,
Trans-led
yes.
organizations that are ran by trans people. I really want to see what you've done for those organizations because I don't see any of y'all on the front line.
I'm on
The front line, like,
fighting
what are you
against it.
talking about?
It Oh, first of all, chat, don't say slurs. Second of all, did Blossom just look at everyone and say, y'all aren't on the front line? I don't agree with any of these people right now, actually. The front line? Girl, I'm like on your side, but what are you talking
I've
about?
dedicated, hold on. I've dedicated my entire life to in
Shitting
my own
on
way,
trans
and
people.
You can disagree with it because we all have our
Right-wing
values and our
grifter.
methods towards
Absolutely.
promoting trans acceptance and the ultimate progression of the
I
quality.
will say she is attempting somehow to promote trans acceptance. That's true. She's trying to be a pick-me. She's trying to be... I'm one of the good ones.
The life of trans people, I've dedicated my entire life to that, right? I access millions of people every single month on all my social media. And I have people reaching out
Access.
all the time saying that I've saved them.
Chat, if I ever get big and y'all catch me saying I access millions of people on Twitter, that is incredibly cringe. Wait, I literally know a guy who works for the army. I can ask him any questions y'all have. Like, actually, oh, that's so sick. No, I actually do have a trans friend in the military as well.
from
what are
just
you
like we
physically
mentioned,
doing?
suicide.
What are you physically doing?
It's fine. This argument will
Physically-
become soon.
Have you ever
hopefully.
taken
Okay,
on a
so here's the
client
thing.
loan? Have you ever
So
had
here's the
someone come
thing.
to you
I'm sorry,
homeless
do you
and
have
give
like,
them
do
resources?
you have
sure
like
you
a
guys
trans
feel very-
humanitarian youth fund
You guys
or
are asking
something?
questions and you have no interest in the answer. I'm sure you guys are very.
No, the answer
very
is
proud of
no.
that.
You're
You
going
can
around in
walk.
circles, Blaire. That's what we're
Yeah, you're
How could it be
fucking
a
being
circle when it
vague as
hasn't answered the
fuck.
question at all because you keep speaking? I'm sure you guys are very proud that you can enter a building and work with 25 people at a time. I access millions
Oh,
every
that is
month,
not
babe.
what
That's what I
nonprofit
do.
work is.
You know, you can,
That is incredibly disingenuous to say that her being a Republican grifter YouTuber that shits on other trans people is equivalent to working at a nonprofit feeding like trans youth, helping trans youth and feeding homeless people and shit. That's insane.
It's really
so
disappointing that you would
disconnected
ever
from that.
equate
this is
community
disappointing,
services.
actually. This is disappointing, actually.
This is very
It's disappointing that you would
disconnected.
disrespect all of the people that are in community
Yes.
service and all of these social workers that actually do
Correct.
help trans people.
And it's really
Insane.
disappointing that you guys are
Okay.
disrespecting what the fuck I do, right?
When you say something about
Blaire,
trans
sorry,
folks, that's
it's
the
so base,
problem,
interviewer.
that I feel that some
Well, you're
trans
using a
influencers are
metaphor for
disconnected.
something that's
That is not a
professional.
They're gonna
metaphor.
speak
That
in
is
platitudes.
What the
that is a
fuck?
That's
tangible
what they're gonna do.
resource organization. Because if you, this is where y'all's privilege come in. Because if y'all don't need
My privilege?
services,
My
from
content is a
trans-
resource.
If you do not need
First of
services
all, ma'am,
from
don't come from my
nonprofits
privilege.
that are trans-led,
Because
you
I
have
was raised by
privilege
drug
and you
addicts.
have
I have
access.
HIV.
I'm sorry.
I create the resources.
I would rather.
I would like to hear the guy in the red shirt talk, please.
I create
work
the
with
resources. My
detransitioners
content
than
is a
I
trans
guess.
resource.
people. So we're gonna work with detransitioners who actually
Okay.
need our help.
We're not talking about military.
Oh my god.
She really needs to justify everything she does with how many followers she has. Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at earlier. It's so cringe.
It's the condescension for me, you know.
I will take a step
I will give you one more chance. And she's like, it's the condescension for me.
back and let other people have an
I
opinion.
feel
Yes,
like
please,
I feel
both of
like-
you, actually,
so,
stop
like
talking.
Blaire said, like when you want to go into the military, like they gotta like check you out and like, are you fit to go into the military? Whatever. For that reason, I don't feel like a ban on
Yeah.
trans people in the military is necessary because I feel like who's ready to go to combat and who's ready to go in, like they'll get in. I think there are people who
Yes.
are like able to do that. Maybe people who aren't.
Yes.
And I feel like
It's
that
just
will be
unnecessary and
determined without
stupid.
just a ban across the board. And
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually a full ban though. That's what people don't realize. Okay, so
You can still enlist.
Nobody got kicked out of the military. They didn't kick
Yeah.
a single person out of the military.
It's future people.
who came forward
Girl.
and had gender dysphoria. Two, it was actually easy. It's more.
Okay, then why are
open
we
to
talking?
serve
It doesn't matter if it happened or not because the statement is I support.
under
Whatever.
the
Whatever. I don't
ban
care.
than it was under Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could actually be a trans person and present however you wanted off duty. You could go to a ball in a dress and nobody cared, and they couldn't kick you out. And serving in the military, it's not a right. They can disqualify you for any reason, physical, anything.
That's
People get kicked out
actually
all the
not
time because
totally
they
true.
can't pass PT test.
Right.
And overseas, yeah, you don't
They
necessarily
can't
have access
disqualify
to
you for
refrigerators for your testosterone
discriminatory
or any of that other
reasons.
stuff. So if you're taking injections, it's a
Whatever.
lot
I'm
different.
I'm supposed to refrigerate it?
I don't know. I don't take
And
testosterone.
that's gonna melt in the Middle East.
necessarily have access to refrigerators for your testosterone or any of that other stuff. So if you're taking injections, it's a lot
I'm
different.
supposed to refrigerate it?
I don't know. I don't take
And
testosterone.
that's gonna melt in the Middle East sun. Believe that. That estradiol is gonna be
Female
blue
hormones
goo.
are not
Blaire White is such a fucking xenophobic piece of shit. It is hilarious. Trans people can't be in the military because their testosterone is gonna melt in the hot Middle Eastern sun. Oh my fucking god. This is gold, chat. This is gold. I don't know what I was talking about earlier, like being scared to watch this. This is fucking awesome.
always refrigerated. Let's just make that clear.
Well, my concern would be that, like, who's joining the military not to serve in the country, but
Wow,
only to
this is
get
insane.
the cheaper
I
drugs
love it.
and
Hello.
the paid for surgery. And I don't want that trans person
Okay,
defending
who's
our
joining the
country.
military because they got a woman pregnant and they just need to pay their bills. There's so
I
many
don't
different
want that
reasons
person
why
Yeah.
people
either,
join the
because I
military.
want
And also
dedicated
there are
people.
easier
I want
ways to get
dedicated people that
So
want to
you just
defend
don't
our
want
country
women in the
that I
military
live
at
in.
all
There are
then?
easier
Protect
ways to get drugs.
us.
There are easier ways to get drugs, and to join the military, that's a big commitment to
Let's
get
just
drugs.
put it this
to-
way.
to-
there are
to take
far
drugs.
do it
less
for high school, too,
debilitating
or
things that will
education.
disqualify you from access to the military than trans. And if you want to put it on a scale, trans is one of those things that for a lot of people is quite debilitating, whether it's mentally, physically,
Sure.
whatever. If you have,
Yes,
social
I
anxiety,
agree to an
if you have
extent.
depression, any of these things that are less mentally taxing than gender
I can't be on this kind of shit because I throw hands. No, that's so fair. Also, to my knowledge, you're like always supposed to fridge testosterone. I hope that guy is okay. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about testosterone, but I'm pretty sure as well you are supposed to. So yeah, that's super interesting. I hope that guy ends up okay.
dysphoria, all those things, then why is it that we should have like a go around because we're trans? I go with what the generals say. I go with what the people at the top say. This is what is the most effective way to have our military.
Just not General Milley.
I just really
Just
hope
not
that the
General
people
Milley.
at the
No,
top
not
that you're-
him. You know what I mean?
just
It
really
levels
hope that
to
the
that,
people-
too.
I just really hope that the people at the top that you're referring to aren't transphobic, because let's be clear of
True.
the isms that are in the
God.
military.
Man, we live
that
in
a lot of us
America,
face.
people are allowed
Excuse me,
to
I'm
be.
speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've
Let's be
interrupted.
We live in America. People are allowed to be a racist, homophobic piece of shit.
very clear.
People are allowed-
Transphobic, because let's be clear
Wow.
of the isms that are in the military.
Man, we live
that
in
a lot of
America,
us face.
people are allowed
Excuse me,
to
I'm
be.
speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've
Let's be
interrupted.
Okay, hold on. On one hand, this bitch is like, actually, they're allowed to be racist. And then she's like, don't interrupt a black trans woman while she's speaking. Which, girl, I love you. What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with it. And then Blaire White is, you've interrupted me hella times, as if Blaire White has not talked 10 times more than anybody else in this whole thing.
very
Me
clear.
hella
When it comes
times.
to when
Hella
it comes
times.
to isms.
Did the interrupter just
Again,
say
if you
use
are
her
black,
skin tone
if
to
you
say
are
you couldn't
black,
interrupt her?
if you are black and
That's
trans
amazing.
and you want to go into the military, I am quite sure that my experience would not look the same as y'all's. And if we can't wake that up, then we're really being complicit.
They don't look at your race.
Skin tone makes any difference.
Well,
As somebody,
yes, it does. Well,
as
I'm
somebody,
sorry.
no, as somebody who's
But it
served in the
doesn't.
military,
For you to
as
tell a
somebody
black-
It does in the military, yes. In this specific conversation, no, it doesn't. That was silly to say. But
Black person
No,
that
as-
is so
as somebody who's
problematic.
serving-
Whatever.
For you to
Why
tell
do
a
you have
person
to
of
put
color
black in
here,
front of it?
Because I am. This is my experience and this is my reality.
Yes,
First
of
all,
course, that's
it is
important for the
so
military
disrespectful to
conversation.
Tell a person
I'm gonna
of
have an
color, a
aneurysm.
black person, how they should feel. How dare you sit up there
Okay,
and
well,
say
no,
that?
it's disrespectful
as
for you
somebody
to
who's
tell a white
serving-
person
Hold on,
that.
just
You
a second.
awesome.
This
This is going so great.
Yes, you
This is
did.
the worst
You're
Jubilee
one
episode I've ever seen.
Rewind the tape.
You wanted me here and I'm
You
here.
screamed.
So what you
Rewind
gonna
the
do?
tape, that was good.
You wanted me here, so I'm here.
Replay.
You in
Right. So
particular.
be, so be
you to calm
respectful.
down.
Wow.
Be
No,
in
it's not
particular. What are
it's
you
not my
talking
fault.
about?
It's not my fault that y'all
Holy.
don't understand respect.
Let's pause.
You're
Oh
interrupting
my God.
everything.
Can you please stop? We're good.
You need to calm down.
No, you do, honey.
Oh my God. Someone get a Xanax for her.
Keep it
Girl.
cute, girl. Keep it real
Holy.
cute.
Oh,
Your
that's
bodyguard's
inappropriate,
outside,
but the rest
keep
of
it
shit
real
isn't.
cute,
Okay.
ma'am.
The rules are you cannot speak when somebody else is speaking.
Fair.
Okay?
Wow. The worst part is, this is exactly what she wants. Heated, stupid arguments. Yeah, it is. This is exactly what Blaire White wants.
You haven't
So
tried
she
to
can
figure
clap
out
back.
That's okay.
I think we did.
Okay?
I feel like there was a little bit
Yeah,
mixed in there.
Yeah, I agree with what y'all were saying. It wasn't really like, I thought it was great.
So
or
imagine
whatever
when we
was the matter.
disagree. That'll be fun.
I feel like it
Wow.
was really interesting hearing your perspective about being in the military, and I don't know
I
if
agree.
there's really like
I
a
agree.
true middle ground found, but I feel
Oh,
like
you don't
I
think
have like
so?
a better understanding of
I love you, Sam.
kind of where you're coming from with it.
Jesus.
And I feel like a lot of points make sense, and it's also an issue that is hard to get a definitive answer and agreement on.
Her speaking on the experience of it's especially different for black trans women is simply important. I agree. Maybe not to this convo, but they need to shut up. I agree. I agree.
Everybody doesn't have the same.
I think she's just okay. I love Blossom, and I get the point she's trying to make. Whoops. I think she is not good at debating, and I think she gets flustered easily, which is fair because Blaire White's annoying the fuck out of me. Can you imagine what this is like behind the scenes with the cut content, constantly dealing with Blaire White's little clips and shit? Because she's so fucking jealous that Blossom has like bigger tits than her. I don't know. Like, I just think Blossom is getting flustered very easily and saying a lot of things very quickly in response to Blaire White being a bitch, basically. That is my opinion.
And that does
But I'm also, I don't
military.
know, obviously.
Some people in our community have to go through much more extreme.
I've also noticed that the rest of the trans liberals are not talking as much, so she's kind of taking that role of talking a lot in response to Blaire White, who just won't shut up. Hey, we're back up from the gas leak. What are you talking about, Coy? I
And
love
so
you.
for me, my question becomes, how are they being taken care of? Especially when a trans person comes out in the military. Yeah, we have these things enacted, but that doesn't mean that in reality and in physical time that they're being treated under what is in the law that's supposed to protect them. So that's where I'm coming from or whatever, because reality and what's on paper are two different things.
But they are. So this is, again, the culture of the military. This is a debate that we have as civilians that the military doesn't have, okay?
I agree.
Plain and simple. If you can do your job,
Yes.
nobody cares who you are,
Yep.
what you do, what your extracurricular activities outside of the military are. All they care is that they can count on the person
Except for
to
the
left and right
rampant
of them. And again, like I said
homophobia,
before,
racism,
in the very beginning, if you
sexism.
can't deploy and you can't go do your job, then there's really not a big reason for you to be there.
And to agree with your point, I'm not in the military, nor am I a military general, but I trust that military generals know how to get their troops deployment ready.
Full disclosure, I went to a business dinner with a bunch of 30-year-old people. I'm not explaining the context of how or why I got into this situation, but I was 16, and when I was 16, I was up to a lot of fun shit. So I was in Hawaii at a dinner with a bunch of 30-year-old business people. It was 6 men, 1 woman. Everyone was drinking, myself included. Everyone was drunk, not myself included, and a couple of the guys were like trying to fuck this one girl that was there. We went to the beach after dinner, after they got real drunk, and we're like, yeah, just like touch it. Just like touch it, referring to like his dick, saying that like she should like touch his dick. Like half jokingly but completely seriously on the beach as he started like taking off his shirt and stuff, totally drunk. And that was extremely sexist for this group of men to like group up on this one woman while I'm just like sitting there literally and pull that shit. And that kind of behavior within the military, and these are like military computer nerds, by the way, most of them. And that kind of shit is so rampant within, from an outside looking in the military. However, if you were working super specific, like fucking, I don't know, welding jobs, nobody cares who you are as long as you do your job right. To an extent, outside of the actual workplace, people will not be your friend, talk shit about you, make your life hell, especially if you're living overseas. Like, I don't know. I remember this fucking story. God, yeah. Oh, good. Military leaders know how to get their team to work together really well because sometimes everyone's lives depending on each other. Yeah. Anyways, sorry, just
all the rigorous
sharing my
steps,
outside looking inexperience
take out the trans,
working
but
with
they've been able
military
to
people
meet
in
medical,
my
health, all of the
extremely fun
hoops that need
past.
to be met. I don't see any reason to take away someone's opportunity to serve this country and to be proud of serving this country, because being American is something to be proud of.
Yeah, and like the trans ban didn't
Half
actually
agree.
do that. Like I said before, you just couldn't go actually like take hormones and transition.
I like this girl. As far as Republican trans people go, I like Sarah, I think is her name.
2011 before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, so I know what it was like before that as well.
And I totally agree.
All right, guys, my friend's about to die. I'll see you later. Bye.
Agree with what you're saying. So there's some middle ground.
I have a full security clearance card for the military. Oh, that's so based. I don't have my own, but I can get into most military bases in the country.
Let's go, people.
I don't think that was the middle ground, but whatever. I think Blaire White shut up, and then they all agreed.
Should include trans
Whatever.
conversation in sex ed.
Join our middle ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
It's okay for minors to
They
get
all
top
agreed.
surgery.
Oh boy.
Really?
Oh my god. We're talking about this right now? That's
feel like,
awesome. Why top
the
surgery
vibe is,
specific?
like,
Interesting.
Like as someone who had top surgery and went on hormones, like it's a very emotionally intense experience. I think in terms of like minors getting surgery, like the reason why I'm not like no to that is because I feel like maybe someone's like 17 or something. I honestly feel like it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like people are really different. I know for me, like top surgery when I was like 16 would have been like so good, and it would have literally like saved my spinal cord from like binding all the time. That's why I'm like, yeah, like I feel like in instances like it can make sense.
So I'm not a trans man, so I don't have the experience or whatnot, but I do think that it has to be done safely. There is a process when it comes to having these types of
You can see the
gender-affirming
conservatives in the
surgeries.
background like
You know what I'm
itching
saying?
to talk.
Talking with your parents and then going to endocrinologists and going through therapy to make sure this is right for you. People have a choice to their autonomy. Now, I know that everybody does not, but those that do or whatnot should choose with the right medical education.
Yeah.
They should choose with
Sure. It's a
safety
case-by-case basis. I don't have a
and
lot
with
to say about
full
this topic, to be
understanding
honest.
of what
I know a lot of people
is,
do, and I'm sure I'll shit on the
benefit
conservatives in a
and
little
what may
bit,
not be a
but it's pretty simple.
I agree with a caveat that there does need to be some sort of process.
Yes, of
which
course.
there is,
Obviously, there
like,
already
in
is, though.
place.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes
So,
it's just-
people are not like,
yes,
give me top
things happen,
surgery, and the
because,
doctors
again,
just
as I
fucking
said
do
earlier,
it.
this is a
You're
big
insane.
world. But to again
Not them,
negate
but you know what I
people,
mean.
the ability to walk through a door that you have walked through, I'm going to say this again, and then close it behind you, is a little bit of a slap in the face for anybody who's seeking.
I don't know. I think people that are getting top surgery are 99% of the time already on HRT anyways. I could totally be wrong. That, like, I don't have the actual statistic, but I would imagine so. So if you're already on like a super life-affecting hormone, like at that point, fuck it, you know? If we allow 15.5-year-olds to operate like 2-ton vehicles on the road, they can do whatever the fuck they want. I'm not gonna lie. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the difference between me being, because I'm 19 barely, me being 19 and me being late 17 is like nothing in here.
As somebody who has experienced top surgery and also waited quite a bit of time, a lot of severe damage actually was created to my
wonder how
rib
old he
cage
is.
that my wife, who is half my size, actually has the same size rib cage in the back as mine. And these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8
Wow.
years, and there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that,
Yeah, binding is fucking
you know, unfortunately,
terrifying,
if I
and I
had
don't-
that
I
surgery a
can't
lot
talk about it, but-
earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis, while simultaneously the idea that, you know, I get maybe under 16 top surgery would be something that would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable,
Yeah,
but I also know that
I
I was
agree.
homeless at 16, paying my own
Yeah.
rent, and left my
Oh my god,
home
that's the other thing. If you were, yeah,
at
I
16
don't.
and had to live my life as an adult very early. So
Yes.
I was able to make those decisions
Exactly.
for myself, but I think it's weird that others can't seem to see that I could make a medical decision for myself when I had to physically take care of myself.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
look at some of these younger kids, and there's a sense of jealousy there and excitement for them at the same time because they now have access to memories and being in the space
Yep.
and being in a comfortable body that, you know, I had a lot of isolation growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space or a male space. I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family.
Absolutely.
And my transition, my top surgery has done nothing but take physical pain off my body, especially with as large chested as I was and having to bind for as many years as I did.
Good for him. To outright ban it on an essentially insignificant made-up number is silly. I agree. Like, most of these issues can just be solved by case-by-case basis. Yeah, I agree. I'm actually kind of down to just skip this one. However, it's long, and I feel like it might get interesting, especially over here.
Medicalization, period. And so, when I work on bills,
The trans
across
woman
the
is
country
talking
that
first.
do ban this for minors,
Question
there's a
mark?
couple things I point out. I point out that I don't think a 16-year-old female who wants breast implants should be able to get that either. When we look at
Case
what
by
we
case.
allow minors to do, like,
Let's say a 16-year-old gets in a terrible car crash, loses her breasts, and I don't know, doesn't have parents co-signing off on it. She should be able to get top surgery. Case by case.
surgeries and stuff like that, they're not life-saving. They're not, if you don't
They
get it,
for
you're
trans
not,
people, they absolutely are. Gender affirming care is absolutely, to an extent, life-saving, especially when it comes to self-infliction.
going to die. It's not like getting, like, having appendicitis and having to get your appendix removed or anything
Big
like that.
eye roll.
It's elective. I think that's the key point here.
Agreed.
My thing about surgery, I'm actually vehemently against surgery, like all of it, top surgery, bottom surgery, all of it. Particularly because you need your genitals.
Chat, you think he's binding or lucky? I think there's some privilege going on here for the guy that's not refrigerating his testosterone.
Like, it's just that simple. You know, you have these people now who have non-functioning.
You think he finished this and he like went home and Googled refrigerate testosterone? Because I actually don't think he did.
Fake penises and vaginas that
is
you
so
know,
fucked of you specifically
you
to
had
say.
issues like, for instance, Richie had where like your urethra folds in half and then you can't pee no more.
This is about.
Oh, are you against top surgery too? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just surgery in general. I don't think that that's necessarily like you said. It's not like you have.
Imagine being
appendicitis. It's
vehemently
not
against
like you've got, like,
surgery
a
in
bone
general when
spur.
we're
It's
talking
a-
about minors and top
you
surgery
don't-
specifically.
I disagree with
Not
that because I
having
was in
surgery-
physical pain, and the moment that I got that top surgery, the pain was
Well, that's
alleviated.
not. That means you needed a breast reduction, my friend.
No, it's just
No,
binding, dude.
that's from
Binding
binding
goes
in
crazy.
general. It
I mean, I
causes
binded
some
for 8
issues.
years. I know, like
So he is binding?
it
I know,
sucks,
but like if you just keep binding, like honestly, like my ribs are like, I'm like, ew, I hate my ribs. Like they're all like messed up.
What? 10 out of 10 punchable face. Looks like a serial killer. He does. Trans Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer vibes. Yeah, you said it. I didn't even realize. Hey Alexa, play Jeffrey Dahmer by 916. Case of dude who has zero idea what he's talking about. Yeah, literally. What?
What's your with safety of binding though?
He's-
I'm actually curious.
Fucking
about this.
honestly,
small
the
ass
thing
wink
is,
man
Like, I think it comes with like the
thinks
size of
binding
your
is
chest. So, like, I
not
have
a big
big chest,
deal.
So like
Same.
I had it was the only way. You know what I mean? And I did try and like bind like
I don't know, he
safety,
could
and
have
I
a big
did buy
chest,
like
but-
reputable like binder brands, but it is a
When
lot
you're doing it for a
you're
really
doing
long
it for a
time.
really long time,
I
and
used to wear
also
it for
like
3 days straight.
I know, me too. Like, and that's what's like you're not supposed to.
Was
but
your
like,
was your doctor telling you that that's not safe because you're not even supposed to wear
Yeah,
what,
of
24
course.
hours?
My doctor's
straight,
old
right?
school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, and I had
Of
did have
fucking
to go
course
through,
your
like,
doctor's old
very-
school, by the
for
way. That's
top
funny.
surgery and testosterone. Like I had to go.
I binded, so he did have top surgery, but wants no one else to. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that too. You needed breast reduction then, but it's against top surgery? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. He's insane. So it's fine if they go like a bit of the way. Yeah, what?
Like a really big process, and I think that's my thing. Is like
The
instead
top
of
surgery is
engagement,
basically just
I
a
think there's, like,
giant
like there should
breast
be a
reduction
process. You should
anyways.
have
They're
to,
just
like,
taking the whole thing out.
live as that gender and be seeking care and be having
Fucking
like
cancer
a
patients get mastectomies and shit all the time.
therapist for long term and a psychiatrist for long term and an endocrinologist for long term, and like it's really like specific to the person, and I think would be like really rare anyway. But that's just my stance.
That I agree with to an extent.
This is definitely the prompt that
Oh,
I
good,
am
she
the
gets to talk.
most passionate
Oh,
about.
fucking course it is.
Because I think there are few things more vile, more irresponsible, more, dangerous than saying a child can consent to permanently removing a body part that serves an extremely important function.
Do they? Really? Do they? Do breasts serve an extremely important function? Really? Imagine I'm doing the Roblox face right now.
Detransitioners all over the country can never breastfeed their children if they can even have them.
So
because
many
if there's
people can't
other things
breastfeed.
That can stop them from having kids at all, right? The idea that a child can consent to a sex change, to gender affirming surgery, if you believe that, there's really nothing that you can believe they can't consent to, right? Because that's pretty extreme.
That's insane. That is an insane leap of logic. Oh, you think 17-year-olds can get top surgery? Pedophile. What? Insane
That's
leap.
permanent body modification under the best circumstances. So you want to move aside all the complications, all the things you can't do, the sterilization, not being able to feed your kids.
Whatever.
You can
It's
even
a
set
case
that
by case,
aside.
like we were
Just
saying
the
earlier. This
permanent
is
body
kind of a shit
modification,
topic.
I mean, you have to be so demented to believe that a child fully
Wow.
understands. I heard a few conversations about, well, if the child fully understands, they don't. They don't, because they're children.
I'm
That's like how
21
being a
and I
child
still
works.
don't understand.
17-year-old, like if a 17-year-old's like living as male for like 5
The
years.
prompt was
it's
about
like,
minors.
That's what I'm
and
saying. Yeah, but a
12-year-olds
17-year-old
are
is a
getting
minor.
top surgery. So it's easy
The
to.
prompt is about minors and 12-year-olds are doing this. Yeah, but that's not what everyone else has been talking about. Blaire White, to win any argument, has to literally make shit up. Literally. If you are trans, and I'm going to take trans men as an example here. If you are a trans guy and you've been living as a guy fucking 5 years and you're like, it's time for surgery, endocrinologist signed off, doctor signed off, all the same shit. They're like about to turn 18 anyways. And you're like, well, if you say you can do this, you're a pedophile.
To say, well, if it's 17-year-olds, okay, well,
In my state, that's actually
there's a
legal
nuanced
age.
conversation about even 17-year-olds.
Rare W.
I guess because the age of consent in some places is lower, but
Okay, so
that's
16
not what's
then.
happening, right? It's 12-year-olds.
When we talk about minors,
That
it's
is
like,
that what's happening? Let's see, Blaire White. Let's see. Under the age of 16. Boom. Many insurance providers do not cover under 16. Boom. Let's see. FTM, top surgery, minors. Let's see. How many 12-year-olds? Yes, however, answer will vary. Like I said, minors can assume clinic's top surgery, must be in relatively good health, good candidate. Documentation, even though it doesn't require, they still do it. Some require lived-in identity for a year. Started or on hormone therapy. Yep. If you're already doing therapy or HRT, like. See if I can find age in here. Minors age 13 and above do not need parental consent to proceed with gender-affirming care. However, each clinic made that I'm gonna say is a little insane. I'm gonna be so real. If 13-year-olds are, that's a little insane. However, how often is that actually happening? And like, in what situation, anyways, is a 13 managing to? Hold on. Actually, let me say this. Let me say, if a 13-year-old can manage to make it all the way to the fucking doctor's office, like several times without anybody noticing or knowing, then their parents clearly aren't fucking taking care of them anyways. Jesus. Movie. But anyways, it doesn't happen. So, let's see. Oh, here we go.
Hi, it's Menno, and this is going to be quite a depressing
Is this loud,
video
chat?
about the practice of lopping off
It's a
perfectly
little-
healthy breasts
yeah,
from the
whatever.
bodies of girls as young as 12 and 13. I'm going to use some language in this video
Let's see
that
some
may
proof.
not be the nicest traumatic procedure that leaves deep psychological.
That's a mastectomy. They're not. That's
well,
not
physical
trans people.
scars. For a number of years now, these
Is this the
irresponsible
proof?
director at the Los Angeles Children's Hospital in California. Johanna is not.
I don't
a
have time to watch
herself,
this entire video,
she
but
is the
I'm
one.
not seeing it.
It's right there in black and white. I'll link to the study in the video description. We can also see that there were 5 girls who were only 14.
5 people. That's what they were able to come up with, chat. 5 people.
age range are we
Okay,
really
I get
talking
it.
about here?
12-year-old getting surgery. Where and what exactly? I want them to talk about blockers so bad. No, me too, but they won't. Maybe. I think if you got the bands to pay a doctor to do something, they should be able to do it. That's true too. If a 13-year-old is solo without insurance, because what 13-year-old has their own insurance, is so like insane.
Anyone
Because
under
the
18?
thing, because the
Without
thing is,
parental
when we
consent.
talk
Yeah,
about
okay,
new
sure,
transitioners or
dude.
whatnot, all I hear is a lot of regret, right? Regret that they got these surgeries, regret of the complications.
Are you talking about the arguments or you're hearing
and that's
this?
fine. I'm not taking away anybody's experience because
Nobody's
these things
talking
do
about
happen.
that. Whatever,
But let's
though.
also remember, again, there is a process.
Actually, they
Now, I
probably
have
were.
a
I'm
lot
not
of
paying
empathy
attention.
for those detransitioners that have gone through the
Are we talking about
process, and they are
detransitioners right now?
suffering.
But
I
it's
do
not
have
just
empathy for
detrans
that.
people. It's
But
not just
but
detrans
that's where
people.
I'm just talking about in the conversation for this particular conversation. And I understand what you're saying because you're absolutely right. There are more people.
Even
that are
among
doing
adults,
that.
we all
But-
do different things in
but-
our transition. Some of us
correct.
want bottoms, some of us don't. Some of us want tops, some of us don't.
And
So
Blaire
we
White
need
hates anyone that doesn't want exactly what she wants.
a lot of
Boom.
time as an adult to figure out what you want to do.
But see, the thing is, though, some adults don't even understand what they want to do. So that's the
Exactly.
kind
So
of the
how can a
thing.
child?
But
But
see,
I
children,
wanna
that's,
touch
wait a
on
minute,
one
let's
thing
not,
you said.
let's
Fucking
not
planet.
underestimate the power of these kids today, okay? They are very much more educated because they have much more resources
Yes.
and access than we did
Wow.
coming up. So let's be
So
very
they're
clear about
advanced
that.
and they can
when we
consent.
talk
Who
about
else says that?
detransitioners, that has been the main
Again with the pedophile shit. Jesus fucking Christ. Imagine being a trans woman perpetuating these kind of stereotypes out of the fucking blue. And also, can I just say, I thought we were doing one at a time.
topic
Happened to that.
or whatnot, because we
But
want to
it's
bring
not now.
detransitioners in to the room, so there's a space. Thank you.
To your point about the reason why I'm against it is because, like you said,
I love they made
the
them have to
children
go in a
need
circle
go
like
through the
fucking
proper
children.
steps,
How
the parents,
ironic
the
for this
doctors,
topic, too.
But in the state of California, if you, as a parent, tell your minor, no, you're not getting this, I'm not affirming your gender, I'm taking your kids away, and California is gonna raise your kids for you. So
Canada
how's
too.
that?
Canada too.
That's not right.
Taking
We
away
also
the
know
kids.
that, like all those safeguards that we're talking
No.
about.
And
are
what
not
children
happening.
has the
Yeah,
bans
They're
and the
not happening.
insurance for
California
these
will- And
surgeries?
we
What are you
know-
talking
we know
about?
because there was a whistleblower out of St. Louis, and this isn't some conservative whistleblower.
They got mad at Blossom? Hello? Yeah, I know. I have an issue with a lot of how Jubilee handles these sorts of things. And also, when you take a look at the comment section, you can clearly see, I'm not going to read them out, but I'll like highlight them, whatever. You can clearly see what audience is being targeted by this kind of stuff. A bathroom debate, Blaire is 100% correct. As a black person, sure, dude, I can say that Blossom's treated bad because of her race because she's trans. It's your personality, girl. I really enjoyed listening to Sarah. I actually do too.
To a trans man, and she considers herself queer. So she blew the whistle and said that they had an in-house doctor. If you couldn't find a affirming therapist to sign off on the form, they would pencil whip it.
But do you believe that it should happen? Do you believe there should be a process when it comes to medical transition?
No,
We have to
there's no
stop-
right
so,
process for
yeah.
kids to hack
Oh
off
no, I
their
was asking her,
breasts.
honey. I'm sorry.
No,
I was
no.
asking
Well,
her.
I
No.
answered.
Of course you did, bitch.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like personally,
They had to
if we're
cut
talking
it.
about, like, a
That's so
12-year-old getting
funny.
top surgery, like to me, that's just like medical malpractice. Because I know for me, like to get top surgery, like I can only get it at 18 because my insurance covered it at 18. But I had to start that process like long before. Like
Yeah.
even hormones was a long process. So I think there's like an area of literal like medical malpractice because no like kid at that age should be getting that in my opinion because you do not know. But I do think there are
Yeah.
instances where like a 16 or 17
Yes,
year old
absolutely.
Like, can
It's
get it.
case
I don't
by
know if that
case.
means like banning like below 16 or like whatever, but
So
Which
in
is
the
what
UK,
90% of
it
the
was
places under 16.
I can't remember what it was. It's the reason why they're shutting down the Tavistock Clinic in the UK, though, is because they found that when you start a child on hormone or on puberty blockers, then hormones, it leads. It's basically a.
Oh,
foregone
good. We're
conclusion
talking
they're
about
gonna end up having
puberty
surgery. It
blockers
puts
now.
them on a path to. It's a sunk cost fallacy.
I just, again, I don't
Is
understand
it-
this obsession with other people's children.
It's about caring
It
about
is-
kids.
I'm talking. Oh my God.
It's
Get it
obsession.
together.
Tell him,
I have it
Alexander.
together.
Yo,
You guys.
The obsession.
Yeah, let it-
the
Alexander,
obsession
please let
with the
Alexander talk.
conservatives
Holy.
About other people's kids.
Let Alexander talk
If it is
4
your
times,
child, it
maybe.
is your choice what you do with your kid.
Just to talk about someone who's at 16 and their level of consent in the state of California, from my understanding, someone who's 16 can also drop out of high school, which would
Yep.
severely affect their life. And
Yep.
they have access to that decision if they want to, because say they want to get into the job market or whatever their reason is, but they have that option to make that choice.
I will say this is a little bit of a
I will
weird
agree with you
correlation,
that
so I
somebody at
don't
12,
agree
I'd
with
be
the
uncomfortable
point,
with somebody
but
at
it's
12 years
true.
old getting surgery completely, because there's still a lot of the world for them to learn about themselves,
Yes,
how
for
to
a
navigate it,
12-year-old,
et cetera,
yeah,
et
sure.
cetera. But for us to have access to be able to drop out of high school if we wanted to, and make such a life-changing decision that could affect
I'd argue dropping out of high school is way more life-changing than having your tits cut off, by the way.
you economically,
Sorry for
socially, so many
vulgarity.
different ways. But then to
really.
say, you know what, you're not old enough to make this decision, for me, again, as somebody who was 16 and was in such a religious family and all the restrictions that I had, if I didn't have access to those things, I don't know if I would be here. And I've learned a lot through my transition and through my access. And I even grew up in the wild, wild west where everything was still on YouTube and we didn't really even have medical providers really even giving us guidance, and especially trans men. So I find it rather uncomfortable that we're able to make a 16-year-old be able to make that type of decision. An 18-year-old is allowed to go into service, but for some reason we can't give that same access to a kid to have that consciousness. Because I can tell you at 16, I knew who I was. I'm not at 12, not at 14, but 16, there's a certain level of consciousness and experience that you've experienced in society that you understand the pocket you fit in.
But just
Sorry,
because
fixing
other
something,
bad
chat.
things
My
happen
bad.
doesn't mean that that is okay. It's like, so just because they can drop out of school means they should be able to cut their breasts off?
Girl.
Non-binary
Whatever.
should not be considered under the trans
It is a
umbrella.
weird thing. Okay, non-binary should not be considered under the trans umbrella.
I think that the
Oh, I would
concept
love to
of
hear
a
Alexander
transgender
talk.
umbrella.
I'm going to voice my opinion first before we have to deal with these fuckers. I'm going to say that if a non-binary person so chooses to fall under the trans umbrella, that is absolutely valid and they absolutely can and should or whatever. There are also a lot of non-binary people that consider themselves not trans and they do not want to identify with the trans umbrella, and that is also okay. Now we're gonna listen to fucking Blaire White talk.
Is inherently an issue, right? Because when you're talking about something as nuanced, complex, full of social dynamics, medical dynamics, so many things to be considered. When you're talking about a transsexual, you should really be specific.
Oh,
right?
that's right.
And
she
this
says
entire
transsexual. I
concept
forgot about
actually
that.
of transgender is relatively new. Like it
Sure.
came about in the 70s or 80s through queer theory, when originally it was about transsexuals, which was considered a medical diagnosis.
kind
which
of
was a
does her
medical
history. It's
process,
kinda nice, at least.
And it defines something very specific. So for me, when I hear that non-binary, which if I'm to understand correctly, means
I think
that
androgynous.
Right, and it means you identify somewhere
Sure.
in between male and female. That's not what
That's
a
a weird
transsexual
understanding,
is.
but
The
sure.
definition of a trans person is somebody whose body has been altered, or somebody who identifies as a different gender whose body has been altered by
Yep.
hormones or surgery.
And there's
So a
two
non-binary
genders, so if
person,
you want to
which
say,
also that definition is incredibly wrong, but sure.
You identify as a different gender, it has to be one of those two,
That's
which
the
would
big
make you a
argument, yeah.
transsexual if you're actually trans. I think it makes about as much sense.
This
as
is exactly
saying,
what I'm saying. You can, and a lot of non-binary people are trans. You can be a trans non-binary person, but you can also not be a trans non-binary person. It's a really good label for a lot of intersex people as well.
that bisexual is under the
Which I'm sure
straight
we will
umbrella.
not
It's
fucking
like,
talk about intersex people.
That's a separate
but
thing, and I
whatever.
think there's beauty in being separate things. There's beauty in having your own lanes, and my concern is there's so much, clearly, as we see today, really heated conversations about trans people that when you
Yeah,
start
'cause of
adding
people like
in
you.
queer theory, non-binary, it just makes it muddy, and the people at home
Pick me,
hello,
pick me, pick
don't
me,
know
pick me.
what the fuck you're talking about.
Here's the thing about a lot of
That's true.
the people who identify as non-binary, so to speak. When they do so, they typically don't medically transition.
Right.
And when you do so, that at that
Typically,
point,
what are
it's
the
a cost.
stats on that? I'm actually legitimately curious.
Gender
Whatever. I have a hard time trusting anything that guy says. I don't trust any of them, actually. Not even most of the liberals. I trust Sam Collins, and that is it. All of them look like they call me a slur, or I'd call them a slur. Jesus.
Right? And so
Okay.
Because they can
Blair's
take
saying-
this off. I can't take this off.
Yeah, as Blair's saying, we look at
That's
gender
not
nonconformity.
true. Holy shit. Even if we're not even talking about medical transition, which so many non-binary people do, regardless of anything else, like I personally know and experience so many non-binary people that medically transition. Even if that were true, there are so many things that like non-binary people do that are not just clothing to present more androgynous. For example, haircut. Let's say something as simple as that. That's not, if you shave your head from long ass hair, if you're like AFAB non-binary and has been living as a cis woman, that's not suddenly changeable. If you get a ton of like piercings, which seems to be pretty synonymous with androgyny and and non-binary people, that's not something you could just, change. Like, you still have those piercings. It's clear as day, even if you take them
You
out.
can wear what you want. You can present however you
Whatever.
want, but
It doesn't
make
really
you
matter,
something
but-
different. You can't, as Blaire was saying, it comes out of queer theory, which is postmodern neo-Marxism, which means that there's no such thing as absolute truth. They don't believe there's truth, so it kind of erodes the structure of
That is a
society.
poor
And it's actually
understanding,
really
but okay.
regressive in a lot of ways because you end up getting it to where it's literally based off of stereotypes, which we've tried to...
Which is all gender. That is what gender is. By the way, that is what gender identities are. Just saying, to an extent.
For so long get rid of. Like, it's okay to be gender nonconforming male
Yes, of
or
course.
gender nonconforming female. And that didn't make you non-binary. It didn't make you trans.
When I meet
it doesn't
a trans
now. There's
person,
so
right,
many
like a trans
GNC
woman,
people.
a trans man, there is an inherent camaraderie. Like when you mentioned, I can't take this off, part of me almost got a little bit emotional. I know it's hard to believe people think I have emotions, but I really do. And because I saw
I don't
you
believe
in that
it.
moment, and I said, you know what, we are similar in that way. We may be different in other ways. We don't know each other very well, but we have that. When I talk to or I'm around a non-binary person, it doesn't really...
I hope
click
Alexander
because it connects
throws
because it is
hands.
so different. So I think that's inherently, I should be able to see some semblance of my own issue within that person, and I don't when they're non-binary at all.
And so I have no issue with non-binary people. I just don't think that we're the same.
Yeah, same.
And so when like I was saying before,
I see
when
that.
we're destroyed because these people are initiating violence in our name, they're gonna self-ID out of the category, and
Violence?
then we're gonna be the ones left holding the bag.
Yeah.
Violence in
if
our
sex
name?
is
Why are we going back
binary
to-
And you're
okay.
neither of those, then you're not trans.
Is sex binary? Is sex binary?
Hello.
I think it would be really hard for a cis person to truly imagine what it's like to be trans and what it's
Sure.
like to live with that and be born that
Absolutely.
way. And I'm not non-binary, and so I really cannot picture what it would, because I'm a binary trans person. I can't imagine
Yeah.
what it's like to be in between that.
Exactly.
But just like how the cis person can't really truly understand that, it doesn't mean that it's not a thing and it's not real. And I really
Absolutely.
believe that we have
Ooh,
like...
Blaire White's about to be like, actually, transgenderism is actually a mental illness. I hope she says it, because I want to see what the fuck would happen.
85 years like on this earth, and like so many people spend so much time being like sad and uncomfortable in
It
their
takes a certain
body.
person to even be willing to go on this. Yeah, I mean, there's 3 types of people that are on these shows. 1, content creators, Sam Collins, Blaire White, probably Blossom too, I don't really know. 2, people that are clearly have been handpicked by Jubilee. I'd say like Sarah in this case, like people that have a specific experience, such as military experience, for the sake of diversifying the conversation, which is a good thing. And 3, random Joe Smo people from California.
Bodies, and if we were just all comfortable, like if somebody like wants to go by a name and like dress a certain way,
Which is like Alexander, I would guess.
and they are saying this makes me so comfortable, this is what makes me happy, there is no reason they shouldn't do that. And my God, there is no reason why we should say, well, you're not a part of this because like this is us and like this is whatever. Because literally like we could all sit here and agree that like non-binary people are like not a part of the trans community or whatever, which is not my opinion. But we could like, that doesn't like change anything. Like there's
Yeah,
we have a
exactly.
vast community. And I believe that non-binary people are a part of the community because I have so many shared experiences with so many non-binary
Yeah.
people I know. We have very similar experiences in growing up with dysphoria, with transition, with anything, and nobody has to do anything. Nobody has to transition in a way they don't want to transition. And yeah, like let's be a happy family. My God, let's all just be happy. That's my vibe.
Based.
Yeah, or fight the fight
Holy
together.
based.
Yeah, like let's do
honestly,
it. Like
We have
unite.
separate fights though, that's the thing.
No,
Who
we-
cares?
We're weakening our borders by creating this divide within our own community.
Yeah.
This is so silly. Look, I actually understand like a lot of the points that are being made here from the conservative side because I grew up conservative. I voted when I was 18. I voted for fucking Bush. Yo. Damn, girl. Like I was conservative. Okay.
Wow.
So it was not until my later age that I kind of decided, like, you know what, let me be more open to different types of communication, different types of people. I actually talked so much shit about
Wow.
pronouns. Like they, them, all this. I was like, what is this trash? When it first started really coming out, I did not agree with it.
Blaire White's like, yep.
I was like, what is this? This is stupid. How can you be a them? Blah, 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 blah.
You were
and I did the
correct.
whole thing, the grammatical.
I want to say, a little unrelated, I know multiple cis people that are like, oh yeah, I use she, they, or he, they. I'm not trans at all, but I just like they because it feels grammatically correct and natural. Just putting it out there. Please.
You're interrupting me.
But you were correct. I'm just saying. I'm agreeing with
They
you.
asked you not to
Word.
comment.
You're
and
such a
commenting, so if you could
bitch.
stop, that'd be great.
Blaire, wait,
Thank
please. Shut
So
the
anyway,
fuck up.
as I
Holy
was saying,
shit.
So I changed my mind because I got to spend time around other people who were non-binary.
9/11 was bad, hot
non-conforming,
take.
and I got to speak with them and I got to experience their life and their experiences. And then I realized myself, I'm like, shit, maybe this is what I've been experiencing my whole life, only because I was exposed to it. If I would have never been exposed to it, I would have never known that this could have been my experience. And I would have lived the rest of my life as a different person, as somebody who I'm not. And it's funny that you keep talking, that some people keep talking about, oh, you need to go through
You,
HRT, you need to have
everyone
surgeries
knows
in order to
who
be
they're talking
trans.
about.
That is all garbage.
Another thing I never said. It's just so crazy.
Again.
But you have said it so many times.
I did.
You're still interrupting me while I'm talking. This is the second
You're
time now.
addressing me,
This
and
is
you-
the second time now.
If you can claim someone said something they didn't say, they should be able to correct you in the moment.
Do you feel good now that you said what you needed to say?
I feel fine.
Wonderful.
I'm sitting
Hydrate,
pretty. I'm
thank
fine.
you.
So,
Oh, wait. Let's get the little
I mean,
reference.
sometimes it's like the power that needs to hold me
I
back.
mean, you're
because
appropriating a medical condition. That's what you're really doing.
I exist.
What?
I am proof that non-binary people exist and that it is a thing. And because I'm sitting right here in front of all of you.
Wow.
All of you. I'm a real person. This
Go
is
ahead,
my
Blaire White.
experience,
Call them a
just as
man.
yours-
Do it.
Sorry. It's just
Call
as
them a
yours is
woman. I
trans
don't know.
experience. That as a trans
Whatever you're
woman,
gonna do.
as a trans man or as whatever. But I'm not here to belittle your experience or to tell you that you don't exist. And that's the difference between you and
Yeah.
I. That you're trying to cancel you. And when I say you, I'm talking about conservatives. And maybe it is you. You're part of the thing. You're part of the thing.
Here's where I get to
so why
interject
is it
because there's
not
a lot of
okay?
things said about
Stop
me.
addressing her and just talk to everybody.
But what is your dysphoria?
Well, there was some things. Okay. So another
Wow.
complete- I don't want to say the word lie, but I guess that's what
Because
it
it's
is
not a
about what I've
lie.
said here.
You said it.
right?
I'll
I never
pull
said you don't
fucking
exist.
clip.
So we can add that to the
Jesus.
long list of things y'all have said. I've said that I didn't. We know you exist. You're here. You're not fictitious, right? My point is you're different than me, and I don't even think you deny that, but yet when I say it, it's an issue, right? The same way
No,
that
that
he
is not
said
the
you
issue.
can't take that off, you can, right? It's different. At the very least, it's different. And when we have a community that there are so many categories, demi-girl, demi-boy, astrosexual, all this shit, but y'all can't fathom that
What
maybe
the
that
fuck
would be
are
a
you
different category
talking
than
about,
what I am
bitch?
when we have such different, as
You can
keep
be
saying,
different within the same community. What the fuck? Do you think, Blaire White, do you think you and trans men go through the same thing? There are so many shared experiences that non-binary people also share with trans people. How about just the fact that you're fucking trans in the first place and you were transitioning your gender?
and
That's
everyone
it.
keeps saying experiences? It doesn't make sense.
Being trans
A
is
bisexual is
transing
different
your
than a
gender.
man.
Can I ask a question? I just actually want to ask you a question. What is your dysphoria, though?
Though.
Because gender dysphoria, or
Passive
sex
aggressive.
dysphoria, as I would rather call it, is an uncomfortability between my secondary sex characteristics. Not just what I wear on a daily basis, because masculinity and femininity doesn't have
Her
anything to
fucking
do with not
face.
just
I
what I
wanna-
wear on a daily basis.
Wow.
Because masculinity.
Christ.
And femininity doesn't have anything to do with being trans.
But that's not true. But that is not true. You can have dysphoria without having to be dysphoric about your sex parts.
But what is your
You can have
dysphoria?
dysphoria
What is
about
your
anything.
dysphoria?
Straight cis women have dysphoria about their breasts all the time. They get breast
It's
augmentation.
not dysphoria.
I hate all of you now. I've changed my mind.
That doesn't mean
That is not Blaire White's right. That is dysmorphia. However, non-binary people absolutely can and do have dysphoria. However, again, who cares? If you're transing your gender, you're trans.
doesn't
Period.
mean that I'm not dysphoric about certain things. That doesn't mean that. And you don't know my life. You're not in my life
Well, that's
daily.
why I asked you a question.
You don't know what I
cannot-
experienced, the different things that I experienced personally.
I cannot believe that I grew up as, this 5-year-old little kid experiencing just crippling gender dysphoria, like horrible thoughts, struggled so much my entire
Regardless
life.
of the reason and your specific, extremely privileged, might I add, situation, it doesn't mean that, like, if you're transing your gender, you're trans. That's it. That's
to be
it.
sitting in this room and you're explaining to her what dysphoria is.
I have my experience. It
It's
doesn't mean that I didn't
amazing.
have crippling.
You got a different
It doesn't
experience.
mean
You
that
got a
I-
different
Oh my God,
We all have a
experience.
different. We all have a
We all have
different
different experiences.
Which makes us different.
I know, but we're all both not.
It's okay,
Different
y'all.
Blossom trying to calm it down is actually really funny.
That's it. It's that simple.
We don't identify as our gender at birth.
Obviously, I'm not a non-binary person, so I can't speak for non-binary people, but I can talk about what I've been taught by non-binary people. From what I understand, when it comes to some non-binary people, sometimes they have to go into the gender binary for safety reasons, depending on the environment that they're in. A non-binary person stepping into this world and dismissing the gender norms of what people think a man and a woman is supposed to be like is so
Absolutely.
powerful. If you don't want to be mutable to the times of the expansion of the trans and non-binary experience, then just say that. I would rather you just say that you are not
I wanna
ready
hear
to
Sam
move
talk.
forward, learn the new terminology, learn the new pronouns
I'd like to hear
that come
Alexandra
with the
talk as
trans
well.
umbrella and the trans experience for the most part. And also, I'm sorry, one more thing. And also, too, there are non-binary people who have different sexual orientations. Let's also name that, too. There are so many layers of nuance that we can really get to when it comes down to the root of what being non-binary is.
But what's the definition?
That doesn't make them trans.
My big thing when it comes to, I agree with a lot of the things that you just said. I actually love you. I adore you.
He's got that fucking conservative Dahmer Riz.
Right back at you.
But here's the thing, right? That's not the prompt. The prompt was, is it different? And it is. Again, when I go
It
out,
is different.
I can't
It's
take my beard off.
It is not binary. Also, what fucking beard are you? Sorry, that's probably really rude. That is not what about you makes you unable to take it off, so to speak. But anyways, it's a good metaphor, but anyways, fucking sure, it's a different experience as a binary trans person. However, it still is within the trans umbrella, and nothing you say is disproving that or even attempting to disprove it, honestly.
It's not coming off.
Disingenuous.
Right.
Unfortunately, as much as I hate having facial hair despite being a guy,
Oh, you do have
like-
facial hair. No, my computer's being shit. I take it back.
like I can't
No, it
go
definitely
and
does,
reshape my
actually.
body. I can't go and shave my Adam's apple down. I've been on this since I was 15. What if it had gone wrong?
So I have an
The fucking anti-minors transitioning, dude, transitioned at 15. I'm so shocked.
interesting experience with non-binary myself, as someone who has presented as a
We didn't really get to hear Alexander say all that much, but whatever.
binary trans man. I also don't take testosterone. So for me, especially throughout my transition, I took testosterone for a short period of
Why
time.
do so many conservatives
just
try to
get
close the door on the way
gear
out?
and the
Crazy.
aesthetics that I wanted to in my
Not just trans
transition
people,
once
like
I
all
reached
sorts.
those goals. I personally didn't want to lose my access to being able to give birth to a kid, especially with being with my wife for 17 years. We've been wanting to have kids, so I wanted to, have a backup uterus, so to speak. And in that process of doing that, I've discovered a lot about myself and my own identity of what is a man and what is a woman. And for me, when I take a look at the issue and the
Please
conversation,
bring up
there's
Matt
kind of
Walsh,
two
Blaire
things
White. It
happening.
would be so funny.
Simultaneously, our community is infighting with each other instead of looking outwardly at these structural systems that are actually truly affecting us with laws, politics, access to medical care, and et cetera. While simultaneously, we see that the idea of fitting into the patriarchal structures, the misogyny, everything that is kind of placed in us, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, all my life have been breaking the rules of what a gender ideology is just by my pure existence. I didn't grow up with the idea of knowing what trans was my entire life. I discovered that actually being homeless. I didn't discover that through some collegiate access to college or influence from others. There was no one around me that knew or that I knew
And that's
was trans.
such a shared
I discovered
experience
that
by so
myself.
many trans
But
people.
as I've aged in my transition, because I've been trans for damn near almost 20 years now, I've discovered my own fluidity in that area.
Yeah, and it's a
because
trend,
I
by the
actually
way.
enjoy my female side too.
Doctors are manipulating trans
Almost there,
medical
chat.
care.
Doctors are manipulating trans medical care.
I think there's 3 types of doctors out there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's keep in mind Alexander is the one with the old school doctor who didn't tell him to refrigerate his tea.
Ones who absolutely think that they're doing this for the right reasons. I think that there are the ones who are absolutely doing it for money, like we saw at Vanderbilt. The people at Vanderbilt literally said this is a huge moneymaker. And then I think that there are, I don't know if it's incompetence or ineptitude or laziness.
This is going to be an interesting
seeing,
argument.
Not just in the trans community, we're seeing in society SSRIs being pushed on patients. Mental health doctors are pushing so many different drugs without getting to the root issues.
See, I have an interesting perspective on this. I've been out for 11 years this year. I've been on testosterone since I was 15 years old. And even looking into it, I waltzed my little ass up into that doctor's office and I left on testosterone. He gave me my first shot in the doctor's
11
office.
years ago, this was filmed a month ago. So filmed a year ago then. If it were released a year ago, then we'll say 11 being 2010.
That day. Oh my gosh. I was 15 years old. What if I had been wrong? What if I had been wrong? It really just is that simple.
I'm joining mid-convo.
Wow, nice to see you.
Because I think, like...
I don't think
I
I agree.
It's like a huge
It is real that doctors
when we
manipulate
get like a for-profit healthcare system, it does happen. Like, I feel
yes.
like there are...
I agree.
I believe that people should be evaluated and go through tests. And like for me, getting on testosterone and getting surgery was a massive process in my life. But I do think
it's
that
so different for different people. I know so many people that are like, oh yeah, I said I wanted this and it happened. And then I know so many people that are like, yeah, it took a fucking year.
Probably happens. Just like you said, like with SSRIs and stuff, like things are overprescribed.
So I do think it's a massive issue. I think that society in general, as Sarah mentioned, is over-medicalized right now. We're in this weird climate where there are entire political movements behind if you do or you don't have a vaccine. You can't enter this building if you do. You can if you do. You know, it's like crazy. But, you know, when it comes to the trans issue, I think just the fact that there were
maybe this was filmed
really
like
almost
3 years ago.
Detransitioners as recent as like 5-6 years ago. And the fact that it's exploded now shows that it is a massive issue. And, you know, I think that I can reflect what you said. I was over 18 when I started my hormones, but...
No, it took like 6 months for me to get an appointment to potentially get on HRT. Then I decided I didn't want them. Yeah, exactly. Same. Well, no. So I had a really interesting experience, actually, where I kind of had both sides, where I waited for 6 months for HRT in a big city. And then I went to where I used to live and then immediately got on HRT before I was even done on the wait list. That would have been another 2 to 4 months in the big city to potentially get on HRT. So it depends. It depends where you live. It depends state regulations, etc. Is she an anti-vaxxer? Yes. She is in fucking sane.
I had a 20-minute appointment.
I waited for 6 months, then it would have been another 4 months to start. Yeah, exactly. I just did mail-over informed consent, which was super easy, but kind of expensive. Yeah, and of course, it's different depending on how you're doing it, where you're getting it, who's monitoring your HRT, where you live, all sorts of stuff.
You, I walked in and out with an estrogen prescription. Insane. I wasn't tested
I didn't
for my
have to
levels.
see a therapist first.
No.
I had no letter.
And you were a child.
I was a child.
Crazy.
I was
So,
15
and
years
that
old.
is a very,
in
very
one of the most
common-
conservative states in the country. So if that's what's going on
Wow.
in Georgia,
Wow.
imagine what's going on everywhere else.
Okay, I'm doxing myself a little bit. A lot of trans people don't know this, and I'm gonna switch to this tab so y'all can because this is important, and I think a lot of trans people don't know this. Surprisingly, southern states and more conservative states somewhat tend to be a lot easier to get HRT, not only because there are less trans people living there trying to get HRT, but also because these states are not equipped, not only politically, but also not always economically or even socially developed enough to, not equipped enough to handle transgender issues as a whole. And it becomes this process where it is purely a legal aspect and they don't care about you at all. They don't care about the process. They don't care about making sure you have a therapist. they kind of are just like, hey, you signed the informed consent, go on. And in 2010, when Alexander, probably even, there's no way this was filmed in 2022, based on that fucking anti-vax shit she's going off about. In 2009, there was even less. Additionally, it is way easier to get, in some situations, way easier to get testosterone than it is to get estrogen in some scenarios. So it's just a whole slew of different, is that the right word, slew? Whole slew of different situations and that kind of stuff. As someone that, again, doxing myself, came from South Carolina, got my first prescription from South Carolina after waiting fucking 6 months, would have been 8 to 10 where I'm at now. It's just, it's very different. It's very different. Southern states are usually not equipped to deal with this kind of stuff.
California, hello.
Yeah, when I went from my...
Yeah, so he's saying, I can't even imagine what's going on everywhere else. With the exception of California, most of these lefty states are not doing it like this. I think for estrogen specifically, the attainability of it as a non-controlled substance in most states make a lot of medical arguments seem a bit unimportant. Yes, of course. Whereas you can go get over-the-counter testosterone, basically, in any old fucking CVS.
Initial appointment, I literally
It's
helped
totally
my
different.
doctor find gender dysphoria on his chart and mark it for me.
That's insane.
And I walked out with my prescription.
Because y'all are all fucking old! Sorry.
Yeah,
that day.
I mean, because I do a lot of work with the detrans community, and the problem is I actually don't really care too much about, you know, if you are an adult and you walk into a doctor's office and want estrogen and you walk out, I don't think that's an issue. What is an issue is when doctors are not giving all the information.
If
when
you're
they're actually
signing
telling
the
you that
informed
this is what's
consent,
right
it's
for
fucking
you,
fine.
and then it's not. They're actually manipulating their patients. They're manipulating
misunderstanding
right for you.
what?
Doctors are not giving all the
Giving you the
information
information,
when they're actually telling you that
telling
this is
you
what's right for you.
what's right for you, and then it's not.
They're actually
That's a medical malpractice lawsuit.
manipulating their patients. They're manipulating. You know, they say if you don't do this, you're going to kill yourself, and all this
They
stuff.
don't
So I would actually
say that.
rather a doctor say, I have no idea what this is going to do to you, but it's your body, your choice. You can do it.
But they do know what it's gonna do to you. When you sign the informed consent form, you're like, yeah, like, infertility shit, or for trans women, breast growth, probably, skin softening, loss of
and then
libido.
leave you on your way, and you can make that decision.
Right.
I think they're not
You should
asking
be
the
able to make
patient
that decision.
Why do you feel this way? It's a simple question.
You should be able to go in, sign an informed consent form, and walk out with your HRT. At 15, no. But as an adult, absolutely.
Informed of, you know, when I started my hormone journey, and now it seems, you know, like common sense, but I was, you know, 20, so it's like, you know, even 20-year-olds can have oversights. No one told me I had to freeze my sperm.
That's crazy.
So
remember you
I'm
talking
years
about that.
into estrogen. I reached the point of adulthood where you maybe meet a partner where that might be something you want to do. And I learned that I can't. And it's simply because that doctor didn't care to tell me. And why, who knows? Maybe it was because of money. It was easier for him or better for him to get me in and out and get that money rather than
Are you
maybe a
serious?
couple
That
more
is your
appointments where I'm
argument?
having to figure
I
out,
also
you know,
straight
how
up
to
don't
freeze my
believe
sperm in
you,
the
but
meantime. But a lot of these doctors are also activists.
it depends when you
They
transition.
also don't tell trans men that they're going to go through menopause.
Right. There's a lot of issues with trans men. Buck Angel talks about that.
He
A
almost
lot
died.
of
Wow. The Buck Angel shout out is crazy. That's so funny. Is she arguing that you shouldn't know what HRT will do when you start? No, Micah. She is arguing that her specific doctor did not tell her that, in her case, that she needed to freeze her sperm. And that she didn't know she would be infertile. Which, like... No shit. I don't know.
Died.
Yeah,
Like, he's
he
a
almost
friend
died.
of mine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so you're a content creator too. They're all fucking content creators. I should have known. What's this
So
guy's name?
I appreciate everything that gender affirming care has done for me. And I thank God every day that this was the right decision for me, because I have friends like Richie who...
His Instagram @ is the trans conservative chat. That's so funny. Getting hormones legally isn't always an option, and in that situation it applies to a lot of people. Testosterone becomes much harder to due to its uses as a steroid. Exactly, that's what I was referring to earlier, where it depends on the situation. But legally it's usually easier. Or I mean, yeah, legally it's easier for testosterone.
I actually almost walked up first because I do feel like the system is like pretty broken and there's not enough education in the medical system for doctors to be prescribing all the things that they do. Again, discussing SSRIs, like I was a victim of that myself. And so, you know, I empathize for those stories. I understand that that does happen. I'm not negating that.
Should have walked up first.
But I think to negate, you know, medical service to somebody who needs it.
Sorry, why is it not working?
Who it might be life or death for, just because you feel some type of way about it, isn't right. Like, why do you care what, you know, little Timothy or Sally are doing or whatever? Like, why do you personally care what?
Well, Timothy and
they're
Sally
children,
are 8 and 12, so.
Okay, sorry, we're doing no comments.
But we're not talking about children 7 or 12, and this doesn't happen often. Has it happened? Yeah, it has, because that's the thing. It's a big world. Like, things happen all the time. Things we can't even imagine happen. It just is a reality. But again, to walk through a door and then close it for other people to walk through,
I agree with that.
That's kind of messed up, in my opinion.
So to your point for being able to receive hormone therapy in the way that you did, I had a similar experience. I was able to walk in and get access to hormones. And that system was set up through advocacy because of what a lot of community folks are actually facing when it comes to access to hormones, access to medical care, access to all of these things. So a lot of these nonprofits actually got rid of a lot of the red tape, because for some individuals like myself who was actually homeless during my transition process, I would have never been able to afford access or get through all of those processes.
Wow.
Now, can I admit that there is some medical malpractice? Yes, I myself had issues obtaining testosterone consistently.
That's true. I didn't even think of this. Doctors are manipulating trans medical care can absolutely go the other way. So I will definitely agree with this prompt, because there are doctors out there that will not give you trans medical care.
For some reason, you know, the script doesn't match up, or you got to get in contact with a doctor, and it was part of the reason why I chose actually to go off testosterone, because I didn't like the idea of not having constant access, because I was worried about the damage that it could cause to my body, and also because I wanted to keep intact my reproductive rights. From what I have seen when it comes to these detransitioners, from my understanding in terms of the statistics, trans people are 8% of the population, and then the detransitioners are somewhere from 1 to 8% as well. So all of these laws that are coming in is to affect the entire community as a broad.
1 to 8 of trans, maybe.
The percentages that were affecting people is so small. While simultaneously, if we looked at things like in the past, like HIV with things like AZT drugs that were harming folks, those folks went through all of those processes and learned the research of what it was to properly take care of HIV through that unfortunate,
8% seems high. Yeah, it is.
horrific process.
I mean, it was basically chemo.
Yeah, I mean, AZT was killing people, and they had no clue what we're doing.
Yeah, hold on. I'm taking a little bit of issue, but I don't think he's being disingenuous. Is the only thing. I don't trust UCLA that much, by the way. 1.6 mil in the U.S. Well, that doesn't super help for everyone ever, but sure. It could be going up, though, because this is from a while ago. I'm actually going to take my math and say 0.48.
Now, unfortunately, because trans people have not got access to medical transition as long, and especially in the transmasculine community, there's a lot of research that has not been done. So to a degree, yes, we are guinea pigs in the shot in the dark. But just like in the 80s when AZT was being discovered, or 90s when it's being discovered, those folks had to go through that process. And I was given informed consent and understood that when I signed that.
We just don't know, because the studies aren't there, like you said, right? So the problem is when you talk about like the detransition rate, what generally happens is there's no follow-up. The longest study that's been done is 5 years out. The average detransition happens between 4 and 10 years. So we're not capturing all of that. Plus, if you haven't had your primary sex organs removed, You literally you just stop taking hormones, and then you never go see your doctor again, and so they never follow up, and you just fall off the rolls. So the stats on detransition is completely false.
So I want to say something. First of all, I want to empathize with everyone here when it comes to healthcare system, because it's not always for us.
Certainly not.
I don't think that doctors are manipulating trans care. I think they're still learning about trans care. And to your point, there
Interesting.
is not a lot of research because the research is still new and fresh.
Kind of same difference.
You know, detransitioning is a thing.
But yeah, that's what I
but
was getting
truth be
at
told,
with Southern doctors
detransitioning
earlier.
is actually rare when it comes to not just wanting to be trans anymore. Now, the underlying factors within that is healthcare conditions, which I actually heard a trans man who is famous talk about, you know, very well. I agree with what y'all were saying.
I love that she doesn't name
because
drop
these
him.
issues are very, very real. But also, I think it's really
No,
because
the detransition rate, which is already not high, is mostly mostly contains people that are not like no longer trans, but no longer want to identify as trans because of issues in their personal life where they find it's not safe, or they feel like people are treating them too poorly. It's not like like I'm not trans type of thing. They are detransitioning like physically, the majority of them, because they can't deal with the stress and the pressures of being trans in a society like this that is so vehemently, especially recently, anti-transgender.
doctors are still learning about our experience.
So I just have to say some things that were brought up about detransitioners, which I found just a little bit ironic, right? Because for a community that is 1% or less of the general population,
I went from he, him to she, they to they, them to he, they. I'm still trans, I think. Yeah, that's base though. And everyone's experience is so different and unique to them. All that, again, I said this earlier. If you were transing your gender, you're trans. That's it.
We can never seem to find it within ourselves to find empathy for it, even if it is the 1% of our community, which is detransitioners.
Yes.
And for the horrific
1%.
medical malpractice,
Sure.
abuse, mental and spiritual turmoil they go through. It's like, so we want the rest of the world to
How many detransitioners are there in the U.S. based on the stats chat? We said like what, 331 million? So no, that's the U.S. population. So 1.6 million. So what is like 1% of that? 0.016 million people. What am I? How do I do it from here? I don't know. 160,000 detransitioners total. By the
does
way,
1% matter,
sorry,
but
why?
our
I don't know why
1%
I'm
doesn't
stupid
matter.
today.
That's the first thing.
I'm not great at
the
math.
second thing is, it's not as if they detransition because
It's just so like, oh, I don't even know.
just like you said,
My gender's
the
like one of those
loosening
videos that the
all
cat just randomly
restrictions to
chooses a
get
piece of
on these
paper. See,
drugs.
and
It's
that's
like,
base.
that's not a good thing. Gatekeeping is a good thing. Like making sure the right people are getting on these drugs so there aren't regret cases, there aren't botched cases.
Sure, Blaire
That's what we
White.
have to go towards, because
Gatekeeping
right
is
now,
good.
we're going down the slippery slope of
Slippery
anyone
slope.
can get on it. Every single person here, I'm pretty sure, just stated that they went in and walked out in an hour or less to get their hormones. And
'Cause
that's
it's
not a problem,
informed
especially a
consent.
child.
It's
Because of things
okay.
that have happened to
Yeah,
me,
at
I can
15.
see a
Yeah, at
future
15,
where
obviously.
transitioning for adults is banned. Like I can because of everything that's going on with kids.
Yeah, I think most of us are against a ban on stuff like that. Obviously,
Yeah,
we're all
fuck.
sitting here for a
obviously,
reason.
I don't even want to talk about that. Gatekeeping is a good thing. What exactly? He's insane.
I think I had the common ground though, because everybody here kind of also admitted that we don't have the research, and so when we don't have the research, and I'll tell you, I think that adults can do what they want, but I think
Yes.
we don't push forward with transitioning children until we have the research. We do the
Oh,
research.
so you're gonna
And this is actually
completely
what
ban
Ghostpop
children from
pushes as well.
transing.
Ghostpop
Awesome.
organization, they push to get more research on it, so we absolutely know what this does. Because even the WPATH
Watch that
guidance, the
1.6%
latest
of
guidance from WPATH,
children
everything that it
suicide
says
rate.
about puberty blockers,
Guarantee it.
it says it cites a study.
You
and it
ban
says
children.
We don't know.
to your point about gaining
In every
research,
state that has banned
how
it
do you
or
expect
restricted
the
it
medical
heavily, I
community
guarantee
to
it.
gain access to research if we're just preventing these folks
We'll
to
see it
actually
within
go
the
through
next
any
year
of the
and a half.
processes to learn the scientific method of what is happening, just like it with AZT drugs, where we learned that that was actually harming us, and now we have things like Biktarvy.
Yeah, so it's the same way as we have with any research. You have a very select, very heavy gatekeeping crew that you're allowed to, create these studies around. And you need a good checklist to be like, these people show all the actual signs of gender dysphoria. They are having like very strong distress, and in every state that's passed bans on access for minors also has provisions except for in the most extreme cases to conduct studies on.
Gender affirming transition is suicide
Yes.
prevention.
If are the conservatives seriously not going to agree here?
I mean,
okay,
obviously,
fine.
it's a known thing.
Get forcibly fucking detransitioned by the government. See how you feel. Christ.
That trans youth are at greater risk of suicide and just suicidal ideations, which are horrible and will plague you and like ruin your life and make it awful. And so I know that.
How do they not think? I guarantee you. Sorry, am I allowed to say this? I don't care. I guarantee you, Blaire White would do some shit if she was forcibly given a beard by the government. Holy.
Kids in a lot of pain and growing up as a trans kid.
How
I was in so
unempathetic
much
can you
pain,
be?
And I feel like I could have been spared of a lot of that and gotten to enjoy my life a lot more if I had earlier access to gender affirming care. And even the gender affirming care that I did receive later in my life, and I went on hormones when I was like 16 and I got top surgery at 17, that completely changed my life in the most dramatic way. And so yeah, I think it is life-saving care, and I think a lot of trans people would agree.
I agree as well too. I think gender dysphoria is a real thing, and we all deal with gender dysphoria differently. I know for myself or whatnot, there were times I wanted to end it all, and for me, I went to desperate measures to align with how I feel on the inside.
Or
And
your
for some of
sarcastic
us,
point.
especially living in the South, we don't always have access to hormone care. So some of us have to go to the black market. We have to do things to our body to be able to align us to where we are not willing to commit suicide. I don't think that's the only way. I think there are other ways as well too.
But it
honestly,
is suicide prevention,
Sometimes
yes.
people just want somebody that cares, that wants to listen as part of the regimen to
Yeah, of course.
being able to prevent suicide.
I've chosen to not medically transition in my bottom half, let's put it that way. And this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud, but I am having facial feminization surgery.
Oh, good for them.
And that was an incredibly, ridiculously difficult journey, even as an adult who has a really good job and access to really great health care. But I still had to go through so many hoops, and I was still denied by insurance.
I don't know if this is what the
And
argument
in my own
is, but
personal life, I've also
good for
struggled
you.
quite a bit with mental health, and a lot of that really relates to the certain parts of my body. Like I always hated my body when I was younger, and I didn't understand why. And and I was always dressing, as like a cis male, and I just had all this stuff just didn't fit. It just didn't feel right, and it was just like this darkness in my life. Like I just wanted it, gone. And I just learned to live with it. But then eventually, after figuring out who I am and all that, like now I know, like this is life-saving care. Like this for me is life-saving care. Like who knows where I could be in a few years had I not known
Absolutely.
who I am and had access to care.
How y'all doing?
I think too often we hear, that if we don't affirm our child's, gender identity that's different than their sex, then they're going to commit suicide. We hear this all the time, especially from the detransition community whose parents were told this and it was manipulative. We hear politicians say this all the time when they're trying to, stop bills or pass bills. The problem with that is that's the same line that abusers use. So when you're in a relationship, if you're going to leave somebody and they say, if you leave me, I'll kill myself, then
What
that is
the
an
fuck
abusive
are we
situation.
talking about? Sorry, I kind of zoned out, chat. Huh? What? That is so.
Child's, gender identity.
That's not what the topic is at all.
That's different than their their sex, then they're going to commit suicide. We hear this all the time, especially from the detransition community whose parents were told this and it was manipulative.
Yeah,
we hear politicians
what?
say this all the time when they're trying to, stop bills or pass bills.
Because they do.
problem with
They
that is that's the same
statistically,
line that abuses.
irrefutably do.
So when you're in a relationship, if you're going
That's
to
the
leave somebody,
trans children being like, if I don't get this medical care I need, I'm going to kill myself, is not manipulative. It is not. Oh my God, that is an incredibly fucked up thing to say.
and they say, if you leave me, I'll
Holy
kill
shit.
myself, then
That's
that
an
is
abusive situation. Yeah,
It's
okay.
not,
Yeah, sure. The 16-year-old fucking trans dude that just wants top surgery being like, please, like, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm reaching out to you, my parent. And the mom turns around and she's like, you're being so abusive to me because Blaire White said you were. Like, holy fuck. That's like insane. Straw man? Yeah.
That's the premise we start with. Transition, I mean, we're all here, we know. Transition is not an easy process. It takes a heavy mental toll.
Yeah.
And so I really think that you have, if you're already suicidal, you have to get that in check. You have to be in a healthy place before.
Her point is, if you're suicidal because you hate your body, because you're trans, then you need to not be suicidal before you fix the problem that's making you suicidal. Like,
before you can even
how do you even engage with an argument like this? I'm so excited to see what they're gonna say.
Fine. But I think that, before you even
What the fuck do you even say to that? That's, I think, probably the most insane thing I've heard yet.
Because and hormones
No,
make
it's
you
definitely not.
feel kind of crazy anyways. So I think that that's why, yeah.
Hormones that made me feel exponentially better, by the way, chat.
See, when
nobody could say anything because you can't engage with an argument like that. Holy fuck.
Affirming care, I appreciate everything that gender affirming care has done for me. And I thank God every day that this was the right decision for me, because I have friends like Richie who it wasn't the right decision for, and now he's missing genitals. So, when it comes to it being life-saving, the reason I didn't step forward, even as somebody who might agree with that problem.
Can we watch an interesting video now? This was incredibly interesting and very funny to me. But there's like 10 minutes left, chat. So.
What do you mean by that?
Just because something is related to another thing does not mean it directly causes it.
Okay.
There's a little
that
thing
as a
called
statement in and of itself is
self-fulfilling
true.
prophecy, right? And sometimes when we create a narrative, it can kind of take on a life of its own. So I know there's a lot of talk about suicide statistics in the trans community.
The suicide statistics
and
are causing
interestingly, almost
suicide?
all of those statistics
Is that your
come out
point?
of LGBT activist organizations who
Is that your conspiracy theory? LGBT activism groups going, guys, we need to help trans people. They're killing themselves. More than 40%. And you're like, it's so interesting that it's the trans activists that are saying trans people are killing themselves. I'm thinking, a bit of a conspiracy. What, girl?
have an incentive to put those numbers
They have an
out,
incentive to save trans people's
portray
lives,
this
yeah.
image that we are suffering greatly, we're under attack.
Hormones made my head so much clearer, for real, for real.
And then all of those suicide rates are due
Holy
to
fuck.
societal mistreatment. And when these kids are being told, like you said, when they're going into these doctors, the doctors are telling their parents essentially emotional blackmail. They're saying, trans your kid or your kid's gonna die. And they say it in front of the child. And they set up this
This is also crazy because conservatives use the 41% statistic all the fucking time to support their arguments, but when it doesn't support what they want to say, they're like, oh, well, it's actually only the LGBT activists, which are the only ones that are gonna fucking say it anyways.
dichotomy, as if those are the only two options moving forward. And here to tell any child feeling any type of way, those are not your only two options. In fact, there is a vast array of options in between and around suicide in transition. Therapists and doctors aren't even legally allowed to say, no, you're not trans, you're actually experiencing A, B, or C.
That's
and that's the case
not
with trans people as
true.
well.
That's
They have
just
these,
not
this huge
true.
host of issues: depression, body dysmorphia, anorexia, eating disorders, maybe sexual abuse in their past. People don't know.
Okay, wait,
that
let's go over
anorexia-
this.
they
Let's
have
go over this real
this
quick.
huge host of issues: depression.
Depression. I've struggled with anxiety, never diagnosed depression.
And body dysmorphia.
Body dysmorphia, that's dysphoria, but I don't have body dysmorphia.
Yeah,
anorexia, don't have anorexia. Eating disorders, don't have eating
maybe
disorders.
sexual abuse
No.
in their past. People don't know that.
So if I'm sitting here because I obviously there's many trans people that have not experienced that. But if I'm sitting here as like proof of that, right? As living proof right in front of you, chat. She's so stupid. It's not even she's not even making her point well. Like, she's actively bad at making the conservative opinion. Wow. YouTube, hello.
A symptom, a long observed symptom of sexual abuse is wanting to be the other gender to cope with it.
So
this has been in textbooks forever. So I just think I'll wrap it up really quickly.
Right. So, and are you saying that this is just you went through sexual abuse, Blaire White? Is that what you're saying? And that's why you're trans now?
It's a false dichotomy that it's either
Big eye
death
roll.
or transition. And
'Cause it's
with that
obvious
said,
not
I agree
every
with you.
trans
I
person.
appreciate everything that transition.
And it has nothing to do with the
me,
fucking
but
topic
it's
either,
too
by
much
the
of a
way.
roll of the dice, and I think it's unhealthy telling people, do it or you're gonna die, especially a child.
But people are not inherently saying that. Nobody is inherently saying that unless it is the child that is experiencing it. Why am I even saying child? It's not about children. Holy shit. But in the stupid theoretical that you're coming up with, a child says to their parents, hey, I'm 16. If I don't get gender affirming care, I'm going to kill myself. That is not manipulation. They're going to kill themselves. And the statistics prove it, especially because most of that 41% is people that are unable to transition. Or I should say a large portion of it, because I don't know the specific thing.
For the LGBTQ organizations, we also have to remember that they are relying on reputable resources. And a lot of those reputable resources are...
I cannot
medical
believe you have to
research.
defend
And
the fact that the LGBT activism groups are the ones talking about LGBT suicide rates. Like, what?
Put out there. So all they can do is take that information.
Nobody's
and be able to
disputing it
disseminate
except
that into
Blaire
the
White for
community.
some
And to be
reason.
quite honest with you, hold on just a second. To be quite honest with you, and let's also be clear that these researchers are also collaborating with these organizations because they are the ones that
Let me
have
guess,
the
Blaire
most
White goes,
outreach to the
conspiracy.
community that they
The
need to
doctors
serve, which is
are
the
in on
trans
it, which
community,
is what
because
she's been fucking saying.
oftentimes the reason why nonprofit grassroots organizations are created in the first place is because there was no place for us. And so it is really hard to get that research to be able to do that. We can agree to disagree, but the research has not been completely fulfilled yet because a lot of these people don't even know about our experience, and that is why it's important that we make it very clear what we need to do.
There's also, speaking of the numbers that come out of LGBT activist organizations, there was a little
this
number
is
that the life
crazy.
expectancy of a trans woman was 35. That was rescinded a couple years
Which
ago.
is, well, that is obviously because of outlier statistics.
After like over a decade of that being like just factually, shared.
And why do you think that is, Blaire White? Why do you think that is? Maybe because of the suicide rate.
And I always thought that my life was statistically going to end at 35. So, but those numbers were based on, by those organizations, prostitute deaths. So it's not always the most reputable numbers they're getting. You know what I mean?
I am not even engaging in that.
These activist organizations are political too. We get caught up in calling them activists and we think it's this emotional, spiritual thing, but they are political organizations.
Yeah, so I am an activist, and so a lot of what you're talking about really was focused more on Black trans women because Black trans women do not live past the age of 35 because oftentimes it is our group within the trans community that is often murdered, we're often harassed, we're often discriminated against, and so
She
a lot
can't
more of
even
that
look
focus
her in
has
the
to be around
eyes, chat.
Black, brown, indigenous folks because oftentimes times the research goes missing for us.
They sourced it from prostitutes, though. That was the source of the
But
stat.
see, the thing is, though, even when we talk about prostitutes, trans women have to sometimes participate in sex work to survive.
But they based it off cis prostitutes. Sorry,
But-
I'm done. It was
yes.
just, it was false number.
So from what I understand,
Wait, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. Sorry. What the fuck are you talking about? None of that matters. Okay, the statistic was wrong. Clearly. Are you actually trying to make the case that trans people do not kill themselves way more than the majority of the cis population? Because regardless of your political orientation, that is just so objectively not true and an insane thing to argue on so many different levels.
is a lot of that focus.
You can sit there all day and be like, oh well, I think LGBT organizations and activism groups are wrong or whatever. Fuck off. But like, sure, you could say that. I don't care. But are you actually gonna sit here and be like, actually, no, trans people don't kill themselves super often? What?
Black trans women, because we do not get to see the age of 35. You are in a place, when I say privilege, you're in a place of privilege where you do not have to worry about the harassment and the discrimination that I face. I face as a Black person. I face as a Black
trying to
person.
open her
I'm not going to
fucking
say
mouth.
that you do
No.
not experience harassment or discrimination. That's not what I'm saying, because like you said, you're a person of nuance, and so
Yep.
follow me here. When I come as a person of color, as a Black trans woman, you and I do not get to have that same experience. There are
You
more
went to the
rooms,
White House,
there,
I didn't.
There are more rooms that you get to walk in that I will.
They're all content creators. God damn it. None of this is legitimate. None of this is fucking good faith. Not a single one of them. Maybe Sam Collins, because I like him. Not a single one of them are good faith if they're all fucking content creators. God damn it. They probably all live in LA. I just... Come on.
Forbidden in. And one thing about it is that's why it's important, like someone like me has to create her own space to be able to counteract what you're doing. And I'm not saying that you don't. But what I'm saying here is, what I'm trying to get you to understand is my Blackness should not have to pay.
You're a content creator? Yes, I'm a content creator, but I'm not up on Jubilee right now with 1.9 million views, way more on a single reaction. I'm also not a big content creator that's making my living off of this. And I'm not specifically on the Jubilee video about trans people as a trans person. The problem with having exclusively content creators on this show is you get a very privileged perspective from all of them. And you get a very disingenuous point, because they are, a lot of them, not all obviously, but a lot of content creators are sitting there just trying to like make a point to look good for their fucking reactions. Like, I believe fully that they believe in the points that they're making, but they're gonna sit there and Blaire White's gonna try to cause some fucking drama because it looks good. Like, the way she has to over-explain herself so much for them to understand that her experience is different. I agree. The problem is they understand that the experience is different. They just hate her.
For your whiteness, that
doesn't even make
is
sense.
destroying,
Going
to
back.
understand is my Blackness should not have to pay for your whiteness that
doesn't even make
is
sense.
destroying my community.
I'm
because of
destroying your
privilege.
community.
So are you gonna tell all of my exes?
Sorry. I'm laughing like a fucking bird.
You say that and then that's the end.
What you're talking about too is there's not the research. You're right. There's not. Everybody likes to
Oh my
cite the Turban study,
God.
and Jack
Oh
Turban
my
is
fucking
a
God.
complete activist. You can just go to his Twitter account and see how actively involved he is in this and how financially.
sorry, what was his name?
Jack Turban. Okay. And you see how much he's financially gained off of this study. And the issue is the study is based on
Sure.
a survey, and so it's based on a survey of adults.
Okay.
And so when you're doing surveys are not scientifically accurate. They're the least accurate way to do a study. And so when we're basing all this medical care off of a survey, it's a huge issue.
What?
And
Wait,
it doesn't
are you talking
serve,
about
you
like
know, it
the
doesn't really-
41%?
it
Are we
doesn't necessarily
actually
prove that,
arguing
you
against
know,
41 or not the
gender affirming care?
Are we
doesn't-
actually arguing that I even forgot about the topic because we strayed away from it so much. I forget. They are actually legitimately arguing that trans people would be just as likely to commit suicide with or without transition. They are actively arguing that the statistic that trans people commit suicide more often than not is wrong and false. What the fuck?
To suicidality.
My question
Wow,
is,
that's
if they're
crazy.
using a survey in terms of how they're gathering data, what do you suggest then to use a tool then to gather data? Because
And if it's a
from
big
my
enough survey,
understanding,
it's
a lot of those
fine,
surveys
but-
are actually more accurate because folks are actually not in front of somebody, so they're more comfortable to answer these questions. Again, we can have a difference of opinion, but what tool then do you suggest folks to use if they're not using a survey then? How do you gain that data?
Well, you're talking to therapists who can speak, they can't violate HIPAA, but they can give statistics on their patients.
No, they
You
fucking-
can look at see how many people
Okay.
have entered into
Sure, we'll
facilities
pretend that's how
because
that
they're
works. We'll
suicidal on
pretend.
that. And then you can go back and see if we gave these same people gender affirming care.
I'm gonna go talk
how
to
does it
every
help them?
trans person
I
therapist.
see a lot of, again, go back to the detransition community, because we affirm their gender so much, there's so much, they're now having issues. They're contemplating suicide at a higher
Obviously.
level as well.
So are we agreeing or disagreeing here? What the fuck?
I enjoyed this debate for what it was.
No, actually, yeah,
it was
you
quite
probably did
ugly
enjoy
at
it.
certain points, and I wish that it was all trans people on the panel because that would have been more.
Like I said earlier about the whole content creator shit on these sorts of shows, where they're just trying to get a reaction. Like, no reason for her to be that much of a bitch, right? Even Blaire White.
Appropriate and more fitting.
Wow. You're so offensive. You're an offensive person, human being. Yeah.
Okay.
Just so
Well,
you know.
I find a lot of things over here offensive as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're disgusting.
And I have to. Trust me, the feeling is more than mutual. But I will say
Wow.
that.
Why does she
it
get
was
the
very
fucking
enlightening,
talk and give this end speech?
I
That's
hope to be back at
crazy.
Jubilee soon.
I definitely think this was
Of course you do.
interesting.
It's fucking content creators. I'm telling y'all.
Obviously, I don't think we have a lot of common ground on a lot of things, but I think we found some. I think what most conservatives
her.
in general believe,
even though I
is
didn't
as
agree
an
with her a
adult,
lot.
You can do what
She's
you want with
one
your
of the
body. I talk
better
to
ones.
conservatives all the time. We don't allow children to make decisions for themselves on a wide range of issues, and that's why we don't let them, mutilate their bodies.
I mean, it was,
Eye
it
roll.
was educational, enlightening. I got to learn a lot, and it's nice meeting all of you.
I liked hearing the different perspectives, and I feel like even though I'm definitely in my beliefs, I understand where things come from, I just do not agree saying that everybody on this panel is not trans. I think it's bullshit, and I think you're trans and you're a part of my community.
Thank you.
Yep.
I really appreciate it.
I love Sam Collins because he's doing this thing where he puts out his beliefs genuinely, but he's also playing the content creator game of being PC and all that.
I,
interesting.
Despite all of the madness, enjoyed conversation with all of y'all. I love debates. We don't have to agree
Yeah,
with
you're
each
definitely
other, but these conversations
maybe
need to
not.
continue happening because they're
I don't know.
not
I thought you did a
happening
shit job
anywhere
debating,
else.
even though
And
I
so
agreed
until
with you
we're
on most of
all
it.
creating more
Whatever.
platforms around this for ourselves so other people can understand, then let's keep at it.
I mean, honestly, regardless of my interaction with Blaire here today, we are all, for the most part, I think, mostly in an echo chamber in our own lives.
Yeah.
So it's nice, actually, to be in front of all these people, especially the ones who don't see the things the way I do, because it also opens my eyes to see, maybe I could rethink X, Y, Z, or maybe there's something I learned today. I'm not closed off to learning something new or to changing my mind, because I've done that before and I can do that again, and I will evolve as a human being.
All I have to say to the general public is start thinking of reasons why you supported doing this to kids.
And to that point, it's just, I'm hoping that folks will be able to understand why the activism is there and what it is, because generally there may be mistakes made in that light, but at the end of the day, we are, as trans people, trying to gain access to society in a healthy, safe way, and also see a future for ourselves, which is something that I never had access to with the way that I grew up in a lot of that ideology of not being allowed to do things when I was 18, even though I knew exactly who I was.
Wow. Holy. I want envies only. That'd be fun. Yeah, see, these comments are so fucked. You can tell who's here to talk about the safety of the trans community and who's here to talk about the safety of their feelings. What the fuck? Obviously, Blaire White and shit is not talking about the safety of the trans community. They are actively... This is an insane comment. Hold on, let me make sure y'all can read it. This is an insane comment because in the fucking beginning, they're actively like, yeah, like, fuck the safety of trans people. Like, let's worry about the safety, quote unquote, of cis women when trans women are definitely gonna, like, assault them in the bathroom. They're actively, they said they were against it. They said they were, like, more worried about others than themselves. And they're trans. Like, oh. What the fuck is this comment? Also, the facial structure and overall size. She looks like that guy from Jackass that was hanging out with Steve-O. That being said, I also agree that she's displayed a tremendous amount of character. It's sad that she doesn't pass, and she will likely never feel truly at home. Why are we doing, like, a trans investigation, or, like, a super insight onto these people? I feel so bad. They paid an actor to ruin his life by walking to the wrong bath with a boner? Highly unlikely. Chat, do you remember when the teacher went to school with, like, the fucking GF cups or whatever? With no bra on and shit? And then it turned out, like, a month later, it was actually a conservative grifter teacher? I don't know how I feel about this. Just how this was constructed to have a lot of camera-happy people have bad faith arguments with each other for clicks doesn't sit right with me. I agree. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this was a bad Jubilee video. This was incredibly fucked, and they also chose incredibly bad people. Not bad people, sorry, that I misspoke. Bad people for the video. Not that I'm not saying they're bad people. I mean, this was bad choices by Jubilee to choose for the video. Sam Collins, I love him, should not have been there. Blaire White should not have been there. She was definitely there for clicks. Because she's in the fucking thumbnail. And Blossom, too. Blossom is definitely a big content creator that I'm, like, forgetting. Yeah. Holy fuck. Except for, yeah, they're all content creators. That is crazy. Oh, wait, chat, I'm making you watch this. Look at this, look at this, look at this. This is in the extended cut, chat.
I just don't understand this obsession over controlling and policing people's body, their decisions.
Kids can do heroin? Because you don't want to police
I'm talking
them?
about HRT. Is this something?
Right.
So you see Sam, like, or Sasha, sorry.
Which is evidence-based, supported by every single major medical organization in the country, to heroin. You can and you should call out medical malpractice when the protocol for trans minors is not followed. I support that. But these trans conservatives sound so hypocritical to compare the same medicine that they currently take to heroin. Like, this is plain out selling your soul to the devil, or maybe I should say it's plain out selling the soul of trans kids and their parents and doctors who want the best for them to conservatives.
I just don't understand.
Insane. Insane. Holy. Oh, like, you know, Blaire absolutely plays up the transphobia just to stir the pot. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I want Anon voices for this. Like, let me in there. That would be so good. Imagine Jubilee chat. Okay, Jubilee, if you're listening, I'm giving you an idea right now. Do one of these, doesn't even have to be trans, but like one of these videos, but make it anonymous so that people can actually voice how they truly feel without being like, without the whole content creator aspect involved in it, because it's so bad. And I get that you're never going to do this because you need the content creators for clicks and all that, but let me in there. No face, no exposure, no nothing. It'd be so different. It'd be so different. Okay, that's the end. That was incredibly interesting. Bye.